Hello, everyone, and welcome. This meeting is now open, and I will be chairing this meeting as the Mayor is unable to attend this evening as she is representing the municipality at the AMO conference and has also just been re-elected to the Small Urban Caucus Board. So we congratulate Mayor Dolan on that. At this time, I would like to advise that this meeting is being live streamed and will be audio and video recorded and shall form part of the record that will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. For more information about the collection, please contact the clerk's office. And just a reminder to all speakers who are participating virtually tonight to mute your audio when you are not speaking. And for those in the chamber, please ensure that your cell phone is set on mute. I would also like to note that this is the town's first hybrid meeting and that Councillor Nico will be participating electronically. Last year, the town adopted our land acknowledgement statement, and Councillor Asadi will be providing that for us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my honor to read this. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. We, the town, also acknowledge that this land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Asadi. Now we'll go to the approval of the agenda, and can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Bill Van Berkel and Kenneth Fowler. All in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? Should one become apparent during the meeting, please let us know at that time. Tonight, we have 5 planning items on the agenda for information and public consultation purposes, with no decisions being made this evening and 1 appointment by bylaw. For any planning item being discussed this evening, any member of the public watching the live stream who wishes to make a comment can email clerk services, and these comments will be provided to council and town staff and taken into consideration before council makes a final decision. You may also be added to the circulation list as an interested party, where you will be kept updated on any future information regarding the item. The email will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is also available on tonight's agenda that can be found on the website. We will also follow the same format for each item, where a presentation regarding the item will be provided. Then council may have a few questions or provide comment, and then we'll have an opportunity for the public consultation. We will hear first from those in the chambers, and then for those who have registered to speak electronically. All speakers will have 5 minutes to ask your questions or express your concerns. Then staff or the consultant will respond where possible. Should anyone need to speak for a second time to identify an issue that has not already been raised or to receive clarification, they may provide an additional 5 minutes after all members of the public have provided comment. Council will receive the information and then move on to the next item. The first item is Parkland dedication bylaw update. We will start by hearing from Hempson Consulting regarding updates to the town of Innisfil's Parkland dedication bylaw. And we will now hear from the clerk on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice for this public meeting was circulated in the newspaper on August 4th, 2022, and on the town's website.
Has any correspondence been received by the clerk services concerning the proposed amendments?
No, we haven't received any correspondence regarding this matter. And just a reminder to members of the public that they may provide comment or register their interest regarding this matter up until council makes a decision on the application by contacting the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Has any correspondence been received by clerk services concerning the proposed amendments?
No correspondence has been received. Thanks.
We will now hear from Adam Madison from Henson Consulting, who will provide a high-level summary of the proposed amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of Council, for having me today. I am happy to be here and present to you an update on where we stand as part of the Parkland Dedication Bylaw update, which is being conducted alongside the updates to the town's development charges and community benefit charge studies as well. On the next slide, please. Just to give you a brief overview of the discussion topics today, I'll be providing an overview of the relevant legislation as it relates to the municipality's ability to leverage a requirement that new development provide a parkland dedication or dedication of land for parks purposes, as well as an overview of the current approach applied by the township and its current policy provision targets as stated in the official plan. From there, I'd like to contextualize this against the current requirements that are now in place in Ontario following changes to the Planning Act through recent bills passed by the provincial government, and what this means in terms of why we're here today, providing a housekeeping update to the current bylaw for repassage and consideration. So next slide. Just in terms of a general overview, the Planning Act allows municipalities in Ontario the discretion to require land or an equivalent amount of cash in lieu of land for parks purposes as a condition of either development or redevelopment under Section 42 of the Planning Act, as a condition of subdivision under Section 51.1, or as a condition of consent under Section 53. These three tools, while there are other tools available to enable a municipality to acquire parkland for public purposes, I would note that these three tools, particularly Section 42 and 51.1, are comparatively the most significant tools in terms of the quantum and value of parkland that municipalities can gather when it comes to adding new parks relative to the growth in their community. The Planning Act, as part of these subclauses, does set forward the maximum requirements that can be required by a municipality, and this is divided into two approaches. The first is a standard rate approach, which is generally based on site size. And as you can see on the right there, is split between commercial and industrial uses, which have a maximum requirement of 2% of the site being developed, and up to 5% for residential and all other uses. Now, the Planning Act also allows a municipality to levy what is called an alternative rate, which is based on the number of units that are being proposed rather than the site size. And this is a change that was implemented to the Planning Act to allow municipalities to set their dedication requirements relative to the density of development to better reflect the parkland need that is being generated by more vertical forms of development that are occurring, particularly in the case of infill development. And as you can see, the Planning Act sets the alternative rate limitation to a maximum amount of 1 hectare of land per 300 residential units when taking a physical dedication of land, or an equivalent amount of value that is equivalent to 1 hectare of land per every 500 units when taking cash in lieu. Next slide, please. In order to require such a dedication as a condition of development, a municipality must pass a relevant bylaw that cites the authority as granted to the municipality under the Act. In order to pass such a bylaw, specifically a bylaw that utilizes the alternative rate in particular, a municipality must have official plan policies that speak to the need for parkland and the specific use of the alternative rate. Now, before passing any such official plan policies, the municipality must also have a parks plan that examines the need for parks within the municipality. In the case of Innisfil, all three of these conditions have currently been met, The city's current parkland dedication bylaw, bylaw 05808, and its amending bylaw 059-9, currently require parkland dedications up to the maximum amount as permitted under the alternative rate. So that, again, is a maximum of 1 hectare per 300 units. And the municipality also does have in place the relevant policies as part of our place official plan, the 2018 official plan, under policy 7.3, 7.4, and 7.5. And we also do have the relevant enabling parks plan completed in 2016, which speaks to the need for parkland across the township. I would also note that this parks plan is being updated in terms of the analysis related to parkland need as part of the land and lakes plan, which is still being undertaken right now and will be finalized shortly. But for the purposes of this policy exercise right now and the passage of the bylaw, the relevant policy requirements have all been met. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea of the current approach to parkland planning and the provision target in the town of Innisfil right now, Innisfil's current provision target for parks, as stated in the official plan, is an equivalent to 3.5 hectares or about 8.7 acres of parkland for every 1,000 residents. Now, based on where the municipality stands today, the municipal comprehensive review work that's been undertaken by the county projects that Innisfil's population is expected to grow by about 39,700 total population over the next 30 years. And that is with a unit growth of about 17,900 units within that time frame. If we were to achieve that provision target relative to the population growth occurring over that time, again, that 3.5 hectares of parkland for every 1,000 new residents, this would be equivalent to a need of about 139 hectares of additional land. Now, I would note here that as in terms of those maximum amounts that the Planning Act allows us to require as a condition of development, even if we were to get 1 hectare of land for every 300 units being proposed over that time or projected over that time, that would only be slightly less than 60 hectares. So even if we were to charge the current rate moving forward, which the current policy does, it would not cover the entire need identified as a condition of the population growth that is anticipated to occur. So it's important to keep in mind that the parkland dedication bylaw effectively is just one tool to meet that need over the next 30 years. But this does also demonstrate the rationale for why we ask for 1 hectare per 300 units as a condition in the bylaw. Next slide, please. Now, due to recent legislative changes brought in by the provincial government, specifically Bill 197, the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act, which was passed in 2020, and Bill 109, the More Homes for Everyone Act in 2022, there have been a number of changes to the Planning Act which change how municipalities can levy the parkland dedication bylaw. While Bill 197 specifically did not change the mechanism for requiring a parkland dedication bylaw, it does implement a number of changes that require all municipalities that currently have bylaws in place using the alternative rate to pass a new bylaw by September 18th of 2022, as all existing bylaws will be effectively retired as of that point. The reason for this is due to the new legislation, all new bylaws coming forward past the state can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, which previously did not have the power to weigh in or adjust a municipal alternative rate set in a bylaw. So that power is now granted to the OLT to hear appeals. So it does place an increasing level of scrutiny on both the parkland need identified in a parks plan and the calculation of need identified that justifies the rate in the bylaw. So basically, this is all to say that if Innisfil does not pass a new bylaw by September 18th, the town would be forgoing a significant amount of parkland dedications related to future growth that would be occurring in the community. And that is effectively why we are coming here today to present a revised, updated bylaw, which effectively continues what the previous bylaw had been doing before, but in order to meet the new legislation. Now, I would note that, as mentioned, the Land and Lakes Plan is still ongoing right now and will constitute a new understanding of parks planning and parkland need in the municipality moving forward. And we are recommending that the municipality conduct a a fulsome review of its park planning exercise and bylaw as well, once that the Land and Lakes Master Plan has been fully adopted. So this is effectively an interim strategy or an interim move right now with the current bylaw moving forward. Just for clarification as well, too, I will note that as a result of Bill 109, the province also has adjusted the maximum amount of parkland that can be required under the alternative rate in any area that the province, through ministerial order, has identified as a transit-oriented community. Now, currently, right now in Innisfil, there are no areas identified as transit-oriented communities, so this is currently not a relevant issue to the bylaw as it stands today. But this does not mean that they may not be identified in the future, particularly as it relates to certain GO station and transit-oriented community development around those areas. So that is something to be aware of, but as of right now, it does not currently affect any parks planning or bylaw implementation within the municipality. Next slide. So that's effectively what brings us here today, is to pass a new bylaw to ensure that the municipality is still able to levy the alternative rate and maximize the amount of parkland that it can require as a condition of development in order to meet at least some of that need that has been identified over the next 30 years relative to the growth that is anticipated. So we are recommending passage of a updated bylaw to continue usage of the alternative rate while the Land and Lakes Master Plan is finalized, at which point we conduct a more fulsome review. As part of this housekeeping update to the bylaw and repassage, we are not proposing any significant changes to the land requirement or rates from the previous bylaw. They are effectively the same as had been before. The only real changes to the bylaw itself are language updates intended to provide greater clarity on definitions, calculation methodology, and implementation, both for applicants and city staff to provide a greater deal of certainty when going through the development application process. Next slide, please. That brings us to the process of where we are today and then where we plan to be going just in order to pass this bylaw. In order to meet the legislative requirements for passage of a new bylaw, we do also intend, as part of the consultation process and in addition to this meeting today, to meet with industry stakeholders, which is scheduled currently right now for September 1st. And moving forward with the bylaw recommendation report and target passage of the bylaw on September 14th, again, before that September 18th sunset of the current bylaw. Again, this would be followed by a comprehensive review of the parks acquisition strategy in 2023, following the adoption of the Land and Lakes Master Plan. That concludes my presentation at this point, and I would be happy to answer any questions council or members of the public may have. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions from council at this time? Councillor Ices?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I had a question with regards to cash in lieu of parkland. Parkland is very important to our residents, and I didn't see any mention in the bylaw of what would happen to that cash, and just some clarification if there could be on what happens when cash is acquired for parkland.
I'll let Adam take that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, the bylaw as proposed right now does still continue to allow the municipality to accept cash in lieu of land as a condition of development if for whatever reason at the municipality's sole discretion it is determined that a on-site land dedication would not be preferred. So this would still allow the municipality to collect cash in lieu of land, and in line with current municipal practice, the municipality would put that cash in lieu collected into a reserve fund, which can only be spent on the acquisition or improvement of lands for park purposes, and that can be allocated anywhere within the municipality at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Sadi?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll just follow up on Councillor Ices, and not referring to, with regards to the bylaw, and I know the vote is on September 14th. I'll be out of country at that time, so just to make a comment to staff, with the cash in lieu, my experience in the last term of council, In subdivisions, when there's just a pocket of land, they take the cash in lieu and then save it for a larger portion, such as the town square. So they try to save it within the wards. But I just want to make just a note to staff, especially in planning. When considering cash in lieu, remember the importance of small pocket parks. They don't have to have infrastructure that is, expensive. All they require is trees and a bench. And this pandemic has really shown the importance of green space for mental health. As we have intensification in our communities, there's many people that are renting basements, renting rooms, and they have nowhere to go to just sit and read within their own ward. So I think it's important to always just take a look at, is this viable in that location? Thank you.
Any other questions of Council? Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is the cash in lieu the same in every subdivision, like regardless of the cost of the land?
Leo? Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the cash in lieu is established it's based on the value of the land, so that's looked at. So each subdivision is different and the values are different.
Thank you, Leo. And I'd just like to note that today, in today's paper, I think the Innisfil Journal, our neighbors to the north, the Builders Association have sort of basically said, come to council and say, we'd like that cash in lieu of reduced or the percentage of land reduced to make housing more affordable. And I hope we don't go in that direction. Thank you. At this time, I know that Councillor Rob Nicol is on Zoom. So have you got any comments, Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, nothing at this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Alex?
Thank you, Worship. A question I have is on the alternative rate and the 300 versus the 500. Could I get some clarification on the 500 in terms of when it says cash in lieu of? Because the first one is 300 units per 1 hectare, and the other one is 500 units per hectare, but it says cash in lieu of. Could I just get a clarification on what that means? Does that mean that we're getting less money for 500 units? Yeah. He's shaking his head. So, and can I ask why that is?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer that question. Effectively, the province instituted a change with the intent of reducing the requirement for cash in lieu. So on a per unit basis, it is equivalent to less land, which does mean less value as compared to if taking a land dedication. That was the stated intent of the province at the time. Frankly, it actually sets a number of municipalities on the back foot when it comes to trying to ensure they're providing a fair level of parkland in different areas of the city, particularly areas that are experiencing higher levels of growth. But it is the way the legislation is written, unfortunately, and so it is the framework we have to work with.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from those members of the public who have any questions or comments regarding this item before council votes on receiving the report and all comments provided during this meeting. Thank you. We're a little bit rusty. It's been a long time since we've been in here. Now we'll go to the recommendation on the screen. And could I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Payne. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to attend in person or to watch this live stream meeting and presentation regarding the proposed amendments. The amendments to the town's Parkland dedication bylaw will be considered by council on September 14th, 2022. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this bylaw is considered by council. Please contact the clerk's office at clerksoffice@innisfil.ca. At this time, I'd like to council thanks everyone for the participation. And the second item on tonight's agenda concerns an application for proposed amendments to the town's official plan and zoning bylaw for 3999 Friday Drive, Friday Harbor Resort Village, Inc. We will now hear from the clerk on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on July 26, 2022, and the notice was circulated to approximately 800 individual properties in the Big Bay Point area on July 26, 2022, in accordance with the Ontario planning regulations. Corresponding signage was also posted on the property on July 28, 2022, and notice was provided in the August 4th, 2022 issue of the Innisfil Journal. Information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page, and notice was also provided by email to resort residential unit purchasers, owners, and business operators.
Has any correspondence been received by clerk services concerning the proposed amendments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 5 pieces of correspondence that we've received at the clerk's office. The first one from Afira Nirmala Raja, dated August 7th, 2022, requesting a further understanding of what is happening to the property. Second item from Linda Procopio, dated August 11th, 2022, stating objection to the application until the proposed hotel and conference center amenities are constructed. The third item from Linda Fittler, dated August 10th, 2022, stating objection to the application until the proposed hotel and conference center amenities are constructed. The fourth item from Perry Germansky, dated August 15th, 2022, stating objection to the application and the changes being made without consulting the homeowners. And the fifth item from Karen Brown, dated August 17th, 2022, stating objection to the proposal and requesting that the application not proceed until the obligations to the homeowners have been met.
Thank you. We will first hear from David Riley from SGL Planning on behalf of the town, who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context for the proposed draft plan of subdivision. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members of council. My name is David Riley with SGL Planning and Design. So the town has hired our firm to review the applications that are before you this evening. And as such, I'm doing the staff presentation this evening. And I just want to thank everyone for accommodating me virtually tonight as we deal with a bit of a health and childcare situation at my house. So this has been great. I wish I could be there with you in person, but at least I can be here virtually. So the property we're looking at today, of course, is Friday Harbor Resort property at 399 Friday Drive. The applications on the previous slide were, D09-2022-002 and D14 2022-004, and these are applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. And just to remind everyone, there are no decisions being made tonight. We could return with a recommendation as early as next month, depending on the comments received, including comments heard tonight, and additional comments received after this evening, and any outstanding comments from town departments or external agencies. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about what's being proposed. So the purpose of the applications is to update the time horizon of the establishment of a rental program from 2021 to March 2023. And this is a requirement of the secondary plan to ensure the delivery of a centralized rental program for owners of Friday Harbor Resort, so they can enter their units into this rental pool. Also, the applications are to permit the development of a 4-story resort retirement home, which is currently not a permitted use. And related to this, to enable the retirement home to proceed in advance of the development of a hotel and conference center facility on the Friday Harbor Resort property. And this would be achieved through changes to the resort phasing provisions, new holding provisions for the hotel. So to clarify, I want to explain this a little bit. So the hotel still very much remains a requirement of Friday Harbor through this amendment, and of course an important component of the overall resort function. So the proposed new holding provisions, as the applicant has proposed, would state that the holding provision cannot be removed unless a site plan agreement has been signed for a hotel and conference center facility on this same site that's proposed. So the intent of this is really to ensure that the development of a hotel and conference center is still required before the hold can be lifted. Otherwise, nothing could be developed on this site, which of course is in the middle of the Marina Village district, and you wouldn't be able to have anything until the hold is lifted. And also, the amendment proposes to collapse the Phase 3 and the Phase 4 unit permissions into one expanded Phase 3. So hopefully that explains it a little bit more. Next slide, please. In terms of the land use and the zoning map changes, so we have two things going on here. So we've got Site 1, which is at the top in the black color. This is where the resort retirement home is proposed to be located, and the lands would be redesignated from medium density resort residential to medium density resort residential dash retirement. So permitting specifically the resort retirement home. And the lands would be rezoned to the MDRR1, so medium density resort residential 1-1 holding zone. And site 2, which you can see at the bottom, the blue site there, this is the hotel site, which is proposed to be rezoned to add a hold to it. And that's what I was just referring to, which would essentially require a site plan agreement to be registered before any development can happen on that property. The next slide, please. So this is just showing a master plan of Friday Harbor that's been updated to show what's been constructed, what remains to be constructed, and what's under construction now. It's my understanding that so we're at about 1,500, the number right now. Many of them have been constructed, and some of those units are still under construction. And of course, the overall master plan and the secondary plan permit a total of 3,000 units, which include the 400 hotel units. Next slide, please. So in reviewing these applications, we have to look at applicable policy and the regulatory framework to assess the appropriateness of the proposal, including provincial policies within the provincial policy statement and the growth plan, the county policies within the County of Simcoe official plan, the town's policies within the town's official plan, and of course the Big Bay Point Resort secondary plan. And we also look at the existing zoning in place within the Friday Harbor zoning bylaw 029-05. Next slide, please. And just in our preliminary review of the applications, and we're still receiving comments, we've identified some key matters to be addressed and explored through our review, including whether the proposed Seasons building is the retirement residential. Seasons is the brand, so we're calling it the Seasons building. Is it appropriate in terms of built form and site design? Is the proposed designation and zone and associated provisions for the retirement residential home appropriate? Is the mechanism to ensure the delivery of the hotel appropriate? So the mechanism being the hold on the lands. Is the extension of the date to establish a rental program for the resort to March 2023 appropriate, granted that it's so important in delivering the rental options to the resort? Next slide, please. So that's just some of the matters that we're going to be looking at. And so the next steps would be to review all the comments received, to consider all the comments from the public, council, town departments, and external agencies, and reporting back to council on a recommendation at a future meeting. Notice, of course, will be provided to all who requested notification and or submitted correspondence. And if the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are approved, site plan control application will also be required for the retirement home. Next slide, please. So thank you, everyone. I'm happy to take any questions. And of course, if anyone wants to submit further comments, you may do so by contacting Vanessa Witt at the information that you see on your screen. Vanessa is the senior planner, of course, on this file at the town. Or you could visit the town's Get Involved page and submit your comments that way. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We will now hear from Cheryl Shendrick from Friday Harbor /Geranium and John Genest from Malone Given Parsons concerning the proposed application.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Good evening to you, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, I'm Cheryl Schindrick, and I am Executive Vice President at Geranium. And I'm pleased to be here with our team this evening to present our applications. Mr. Riley has done a very good job of giving you an overview of them, and Mr. Janae in a moment will speak a little further to them. So I'm also joined by Mr. Mike Lavallee, who is the President and CEO of Seasons Retirement Communities, who will give you a little bit of a flavor for what we hope to build on the site. Also joining me in the audience today are Mr. Mario Giampetri, who is a principal at Geranium and a partner at Friday Harbor, Hani Rustem, who is the President and CEO of Friday Harbor Resort. Mr. Shankman is here, who has been advising on a legal basis the development since its inception and is currently the chair of the Resort Association. And so these are here to provide any assistance in responding to comments or questions. And of course, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Jim DeGasperis, the managing partner for Friday Harbor, who on day in and day out inspires us to strive for excellence in all things Friday Harbor. Our team is also here to help respond to any questions of a technical matter. So I'd like to give you a very brief update on where things are with the development. Mr. Lavallee is going to speak to the retirement residence itself, and then Mr. Janae will take the floor. So in terms of where we are at, we celebrated our one-year anniversary of the Lake Club this July, having opened it last summer, and that, of course, is a homeowner facility providing dining, fitness, and private dining opportunities. The amphitheater was opened this year. We were very excited to celebrate that grand opening, and we were delighted that members of council could join us for that. The amphitheater is now being programmed by Hani and his team with all kinds of activities, and one of which is the fashion show that was held past weekend, and again will be hosting this coming weekend in partnership with the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards organization, featuring the work of Canadian designers. In conjunction with the fashion show, we held a fashion market on the boardwalk, and I encourage all of you to come out and support that if you haven't already been there, and enjoy it. On the programming side of things, we continue to program the resort with activities to do as much or as little as someone may desire, including dinners at the Beach Club with the Fashion Collective. We've got book club meetings at the Lake Club, jet surf lessons on the lake, and summer camp for the kids. In terms of new additions to the boardwalk, I'm pleased to say that earlier this year, our French bakery, Parisienne, opened, offering fresh baked breads and fine French pastries, cafe dining, and catering services. In addition, the spa has opened, 111 Beauty Bar, offering a full range of spa treatments. If you're into a little art, the Abbey Gallery is open now, a beautiful collection of modern art, both local and international, including the photography of our very own resident, Friday Harbor resident, Dana White. The photography that Dana's been doing since the resort began developing is quite inspiring. Sunseeker is commencing construction at the west end of the boardwalk next to the Lake Club, with occupancies anticipated in the second quarter of 2025. Mr. Riley spoke about the rental program, and I want to give you an update on that. The program elements have been outlined by Hani and his team, and they are in the process of consulting with the 6 condo corporations at the resort to ensure that that program is compliant with the rules and regulations of all the condo corporations. This is a very important element for the resort, and we have to get it right. And as Mr. Janae will speak further to, we propose to have this program in place up and running early next year. Finally, on the hotel conference piece, the hospitality sector continues to reel from the ravages of COVID-19, and while there are signs of recovery, the sector is now grappling with labor shortages, which is hampering its recovery. So we've got a couple of quotes on the screen from the American Hotel and Lodging Association and the Hotel Association of Canada, recent reports by them, just speaking to the challenges that they are still enduring. On the master amenity plan, you will remember FORAC was retained by us to undertake a full assessment, and they have completed the amenity master plan, and it has been filed with our applications. Key among their recommendations is that we move forward with the tennis academy or the racket academy that is envisioned presently in the North Village, as circled there, particularly as we look to move into the beach precinct with the next stage of development, which of course is where now the racket sports are enjoyed. And I'm going to call on Mr. Lavallee now to come and speak to you about the retirement residence. But let me just say at the outset that we're partnering with Seasons to deliver a high-end resort retirement residence on the property on a monthly rental basis. And these suites offer a full range of services and amenities, which Mr. Lavallee will speak further to. It's a 3-acre site, and in the northeast part of the development, as Mr. Riley showed, and it is 4 stories. We've got a 4-story permission in that part of the property right now. It will also provide employment on site for about 40 to 50 employees. Seasons will be, as a member, as a use on the property, it will be subject to the Big Bay Resort Association Act. It will be a member of the RA, and it will pay fees to the RA. So, Mr. Lavallee, may I call on you now to explain what everybody's looking at? Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl, and thanks everyone for giving us the opportunity to present our newest concept in retirement living. I'd like to point out just one thing, that our focus on this project, although clinical services are available to seniors should they wish to avail themselves of those services, our focus is truly on wellness, and I'd like to call this a neighborhood within a neighborhood. So we are planning a number of amenities that would be unique to the retirement home themselves, to the residents that would live there. And while they would be available to be able to participate and immerse themselves in the broader neighborhood of Friday Harbor, they certainly will be able to take full advantage of a sense of wellness, of fulfillment, of development. You saw a number of slides there that show a gracious living environment where people can gather and be among like-minded residents. They've got their own hair salon, and we pride ourselves on being able to promote fitness, wellness. And, we also have education programs for seniors should they wish to continue to improve themselves. So very much a rich and choice-driven environment for seniors who have access to a broad barometer of activities and choices within the facility as well as within the community. And I'll reserve questions for later. Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff. My name is John Genet. As noted, I'm a planner with the firm Malone Given Parsons, and happy to be speaking to you tonight, or with you. As Mr. Riley described, there are 2 applications before the town, one for amendments to the resort secondary plan, resort secondary plan and its Schedule O, as well as the other 4 amendments to the zoning bylaw and its Schedule B. The first purpose is to enable and permit the Seasons use on its proposed site in the resort's North Village precinct. Construction of the Sunseeker building that Cheryl referred to will complete the Phase 2 resort residential unit permission, such that proceeding with the season's use and subsequent resort residential development requires fulfillment of the new Phase 3 prerequisites. And as described in the materials accompanying the application, all Phase 3 prerequisites are fulfilled today, with the exception of the in-progress rental program Cheryl described, and construction of the resort hotel and conference facilities. The requirement for the hotel at this juncture was conceived in 2005 as one of a suite of phased elements then at the time considered necessary to bring the resort from really a vision on paper to reality. And as affirmed by the FOREP work Ms. Shindrick has described, Friday Harbor is today one of Ontario's preeminent resort destinations. The reality has been achieved, and completion of the hotel remains a top-of-mind priority for the developer, but is less central to achieving the resort status than it was once considered to be. For these reasons, the application seeks to modify the phrasing structure to enable the right hotel to develop when conditions support it. And with that modification, the Phase 3 and 4 prerequisites would become essentially the same, on which basis it makes sense to combine them into one new Phase 3. And in discussion with town staff and planning consultants, it was agreed that placing a new hold requirement on the waterfront hotel site, as Mr. Riley described, would add a layer of security for the realization of the resort hotel, hence the rezoning shown on what David described as Site 2. I won't spend time reading this list, but just highlight that in the interest of time, that the applications were supported by 8 analyses in addition to the planning opinion report, and included the resort amenity master plan prepared by FOREC. With regard to the presence of the Seasons facility on the site, its visibility is described or graphically portrayed in these cross-sections prepared by Turner Fleischer Architects. And they show how the views of the building will be screened in the top panel, screened from or by the woodland intervening between the site, Friday Harbor itself, and West Street to the east. And the lower cross section shows the effect of screening vegetation along the permanent buffer area, the parallel to Big Bay Point Road, and how it will screen views from that road into the site and those views of the Seasons building. And just one point on the height of the building itself, that 4-story height is currently permitted in the North Village precinct. Excuse me, moving to my own planning opinion, I believe the requested official plan and zoning bylaw amendments conform to the objectives and principles of the planning framework while enhancing resorts offerings with a new offering. They permit a desired use which provides lifestyle opportunities for active seniors and broaden the demographics to which the resort can appeal. They support the continued delivery of economic benefits for the town and the larger community, and do represent good planning in the public interest. And I'd just like to add that correspondence has now been received from Simcoe County planning staff who have expressed their comfort with the proposed amendments. And they note that the county is satisfied that the amendments would not negatively affect the form or function of the resort, that allowing resort residential uses, including resort retirement uses, to be developed in advance of the hotel and conference facility can occur without compromising the nature of the community as a resort, understanding that the hotel and conference facility will be developed as soon as it is feasible. And lastly, that there are sufficient provisions in place to ensure that the resort hotel and conference facilities do remain entrenched in the official plan and zoning bylaw permissions. So with that, I think I turn it back to Cheryl with some concluding remarks.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation, and I just want to leave as much time as possible for public comment. So we're happy to take any questions from council and of course from the public.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentations. Are there any questions from council at this time? Councillor Fowler?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a few questions, so I'm asking for everyone's patience with regards to this. The first one is, how does this home fall under the tax structure and DC charges? Does it, as it is a seniors residence technically, which bracket does it fall under? Is it under with the rest of Friday Harbor? Do they pay full DC charges? Do they pay the property taxes as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, question 2. At this point in time, under section 14.2, subsection 0, or O, it states that a resort retirement home shall be a member of the Big Bay Resort Association. If something were to occur where there was a schism, for example, between the two, what would happen with the resort? Would it be potentially grandfathered in? Or would it be left, would it have to be shut down? Would it be reevaluated? What would happen if something like this were to occur? I'm just kind of curious with the upper management level, and secondary, if there's a lack of sales with the units, what becomes of the units themselves?
Well, the units are rented. The building is situated within the Big Bay Point or within the Friday Harbor Resort limits, and as such it is subject to the Act. And so it would continue to be subject to that act, as is everything else on the resort property.
And one last question, if possible, please. Under the Big Bay Point, I believe it is here, resort secondary plan, it states in the response that was put in, a retirement home is not contemplated as a residential use within the secondary plan. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, because it's not identified or not identified, it's contemplated. That's very vague terminology, and it's not. I just need some clarification, please.
Well, I think that when that secondary plan was developed in 2004 or 5, it wasn't envisioned. It wasn't a use that we thought about at the time. With the passage of time and understanding the demographics of the resort and who's there and who's not there, we came to see that this was a demographic that would be a good addition to the resort community, and therefore the reason for our application for an amendment to the secondary plan.
Thank you, Ken. I think I'll go to Councillor Bill Van Berkel next. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have one question first and then a comment. Seniors, how old? 55 and over? 60 and over?
Yes, you and I would qualify, Councillor.
Thank you. I have to say, over all the years I've been since the conception of Big Bay Friday Harbor, I've always been there since day one, and they've always lived up to whatever they said they would do, and very impressed with the project. They've come to council numerous times for changes, and I think the changes are always for the better. And I must say that I like the concept. I like the idea for seniors that they can rent, that they don't have to buy. I like that, because a lot of seniors will go to Florida for 4 months or 5 months or whatever. And I don't think they have to rent for a year and leave 6 months. They can rent for 6 months at a time, I presume?
I believe so.
Yeah?
Yes, I believe so. It's,
Okay.
it's a monthly rental basis.
Okay. So that would make it a lot easier, because a lot of seniors don't want to sit somewhere and watch TV all day. And I'm probably one of those. So I think it's a good idea, especially with an H symbol on the hotel lot. I believe that the hotel will be built sooner or later. And because like I just said, Friday Harbor has always come through with whatever they said they would do. So I like the idea of this plan. It gives something for everybody. it's not just a resort for the younger people, it also becomes a resort now for anyone who really wants to be there, so. So I'm in favor of what I see here. Of course, we've got to go through some hoops and before this becomes a reality, but so far I'm impressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Next, I'll go to Councillor Carolyn Payne. Thank you.
I was the last one to ask, and I'm the second one. I just want to say it kind of got to me at the beginning that it was going to be a seniors' home, and I've been to so many seniors' homes, and they're not nice. So I'm thinking, no, that's not the place. But after reading all the information and listening to your presentation, I think it'd be a great place to live. But if you could just call it a retirement residence resort, sounds great, because it goes better with Friday Harbor. And I know I'm not there yet, but one of these days I just might be able to pop over there. That would be nice. But I applaud you, really, for being brave to get into something like that and to give the seniors in Innisfil who want to stay in Innisfil a place to stay. So I thank you for that, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Donna Asadi.
Thank you. I have several questions and some comments. So I'll start on the seniors rental housing. There's a great need in the community for housing in a rental program for seniors. And I know that in looking at the attachments for the brochures, there was 2 different levels of the program. One was just rental, one was more of a care facility that it could, are you looking at just the rental apartment rentals? I think it was just that to begin with, yes.
Councillor, I'm going to call on Mr. Lavalley to respond to you.
So people that are going to live here are going to make a lifestyle choice first. They're picking a new place to live. They're leaving the house that they were in that they don't need anymore, and they're moving into a new neighborhood with new friends. Might they need additional services? They might, but they won't have to move to a specific floor or a designated area within the building. Those services they will be able to buy discreetly behind the door in the apartment that they choose to live in. So while we say that those services are available, they're a la carte. It's entirely choice driven.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed that with the height of the building, it's 4 stories, which was the same height as the townhouses that were planned for that in the initial stages. So there, and a couple others. The rental program that you're saying would be available in March of 2023, how are residents able to rent their properties now?
Currently, homeowners are able to rent their properties through a number of different platforms, whether it's Airbnb or Kijiji. They are being rented at any given time. Mr. Rustam can verify this probably more specifically, but 100 to 150 units in the resort are being rented, are available for rent. So it is happening now, but this would be a made at Friday Harbor rental program that the resort, we would manage it.
So then, so then when you manage that, would that then remove residents from having the option to rent through other platforms?
I don't know what the answer to that would be. We would hope that the homeowners would avail themselves of the Friday Harbor program, but I can't say to you whether that means that they would not have the ability to rent on another platform. Don't know that answer. It's a voluntary right. I knew that, actually. Yes, so the answer is they could, but we would hope that they would see the benefits of renting through the Friday Harbor program.
And I would think that the community would see the benefits of renting through your program because there would be more controlled by your management offices and handling the complaints, et cetera. So I think it's a better platform to go for that. I was, one of my questions before that I had written down was whether the rental program was contingent on the completion of the hotel, but you're saying now that your rental program will be available and in place and up and running by March of 2023?
Yeah,
hopefully.
Mr. Rustom's developed the program. He's talking to the individual condo corporations now, just to make sure that all of those rules and regulations that exist at that level, that there's a seamlessness between them.
Okay, and I just, a little bit more latitude, thank you, Deputy Mayor. You talked about in the report the collapse of Phase 3 and 4, 800 units, 300 units expanded into Phase 3. Where is that in that map? I could not figure it in the diagrams for the Phase 3. And just clarification, are those contingent on the development of the hotel conference center being built before those can be started?
So the phases, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair, to the Councillor, the phases are not geographic in extent, they're quantity or quantified. And so the putting together of Phase 3 and Phase 4 is really because everything in Phase 3 has been addressed or provided, save and except for the rental program, which we've been talking about. And so I'm not sure that what your question is. There's no practical purpose really for Phase 4 anymore because it's all been addressed as part of Phase 3. Save and except for the rental program. The hotel would be exclusive, and it will be zoned with a hold, as Mr. Riley described and Mr. Genet, that the hold cannot be lifted until there's a site plan agreement for a hotel. So it's being held specifically for that hotel conference use.
Okay. And I know that through the industry, and certainly the pandemic hasn't helped the hotel industry, and everybody understands that. I think we're just disappointed because it's many times that coming to council, that hotel and conference center gets put on a back burner, and it's disappointing to the residents as well. And but everybody wants it to be viable and to be a success, not a ghost hotel. I was just concerned in the one slide that said hotel and conference when conditions support. So is there a future projected date?
Well, it's a constant ongoing pursuit by the partners, the Friday Harbor Partnership and Mr. DeGasperis, and we would like to see it yesterday, but we can't force it, and like everything else, we want to do an excellent job. We want it to be a success for us and for the town, so it's really when the conditions support it, and I can't tell you when that would be.
And my last question, I know they always want to duct tape me. How long in construction would it take to build the hotel and conference center? Just ballpark, is that a year's construction?
Oh, it would be a multi-year construction, I would imagine.
Multi-years, okay.
When we were just starting construction of Sunseeker, for example, and we're, towards the end of 2022, and the occupancies are expected middle of 2025.
Okay.
So it would be something similar to that in duration.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I'll next go to Alex, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to look for some clarification on the ownership, I guess the rental model that you're using for the seniors home. Would this be like an apartment with a year lease, or can people just rent it for a month? So I'm trying to figure who's going to be living there full time so that they can be represented on an association that represents that building like all the other condos have.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Lavalley is here.
Well, I can, through the chair, I can speak to the individuals in a retirement home. Since we are licensed and regulated under the Retirement Home Act, essentially they have a 30-day lease. Even though we enter into an agreement that is price controlled, if you like, rent controlled for the year, with the exception of the ancillary services, they can leave at any time. So essentially it is a 30-day lease. Now, as far as those individuals, they are not part of the resort association. I'll let you answer.
So yes, the member of the resort association is the residents as a whole. So Seasons would be the member of the resort association, not the individual tenants.
That's clarification I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
So I guess that would eliminate the off chance that people could rent out as a short-term rental their units to someone who is not a senior.
So there's two pieces to that. It's seniors, and Mike, you can perhaps elaborate on this. I don't believe there's an age test per se to reside here, but the building is designed to cater to the needs of a certain demographic group that would find it appealing. So I don't think, could I move in if I was 35 years old? I wish I was, but I'm not.
There probably would be some conditions for you to want to, and for us to accept that as a residency.
Okay.
There are no sublets.
Okay. That would my concern would be that if a 35-year-old could move in with their family, then I think seniors are looking for a different lifestyle and a more sedate lifestyle, maybe, or maybe very active seniors. But if you've got younger people there, that might conflict with the lifestyle those people are looking for. So I was just wondering if there's more restrictive.
There are. So if I can kind of describe the base package, if I can.
Okay.
It will come with a very slight level of service and a meal package. And the meal package is 1 meal a day to start. What young family would want to afford and participate in a dining experience every day with seniors that they don't really connect with and that is not really part of their normal social gatherings.
Okay.
So it wouldn't appeal. And, price-wise, it wouldn't make a ton of sense either.
Right. Thank you very much. One final question pertaining to the hotel. I have the same concerns as Councillor Sardi about, on several occasions we've heard about the hotel and it keeps on getting put off. And I understand the pandemic is a good reason for that to happen. But we would like to see that happen because I think the conference center hotel would be, I think the conference center goes well with the short-term rentals that you have there now, but the hotel would certainly make that grow. So my disappointment in hearing that it will be on hold, but we would like to see that happen. In terms of moving forward with the hotel, are you looking for Geranium to own it and operate it, or are you looking for a partnership with an existing hotel firm?
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So Geranium is part of the Friday Harbour Partnership. The ownership, that structure has not been sorted out yet. It might be owned by the resort. It might be owned by a hotel like another hotel operator. That model is still on the table. We're looking at all the different options. It may be a Friday Harbour branded hotel. It might be another branded hotel in conjunction with Friday Harbour. So all of the options are being considered, and I can assure you that wherever it lands, it will be something that fits very well with the Friday Harbour brand that has been established today. We take that very seriously. We're very protective of it, and we know that it's very important to the homeowners that level of quality and excellence be carried through in everything, including the hotel.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Kevin Ices next, and then I'll go to Rob, that's on camera, then we'll cycle back. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I wanted to possibly follow up a little bit on Councillor Waters' comments. And maybe first by starting off by asking, I heard the phrase, I might say it wrong, but Retirement Act is kind of what you're using to be able to put the phrase retirement home on this project. And I'm just wondering what the requirements would be to do that as a building.
Thank you, through the chair. So as a retirement home operator, we are regulated, inspected, and licensed by the Retirement Home Regulatory Authority. And the Retirement Home Act was enacted in 2010 to help government provide consumer protection for seniors that choose to live in private pay retirement homes. So we operate, the precondition of being a retirement home that falls under the Act is there are 3 or more prescribed services, 6 or more individuals that live there that are not relatives, and a couple of other things. So essentially this would qualify and therefore become a retirement home that would be inspected, regulated, and registered and licensed under the Act.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess I should maybe back up and say I do commend you for coming to council with such a unique project. As Councillor Payne also said, you know, when you don't think of a retirement home being in a resort. But then there's also concerns about, you know, how this is going to work with things that could cause a problem, whether it be Airbnbs or uses that we wouldn't desire there. But there isn't really a regulatory framework that stops people from doing that. They just might not want to, is what I'm hearing. If I think back to when Friday Harbor, the concept originally came, to my knowledge, there's no busing for school kids that comes to Friday Harbor. So the thought would be that families probably wouldn't want to live there because their kids couldn't get to school. But there's nothing really stopping a family from living there. And I think I've heard that some people have chose to do that. So that's just my the thought process I have. There's nothing stopping these things from happening, but you're just trying to get a conditions that they won't want to.
So, through the chair, if I could provide a comment, there wasn't a question there specifically, but if I could provide better context. Of the 2,500 people that live with us across Canada, there are probably 10 that are under the age of 55, and they live with us because they have needs that we support. Or they may live with their aged parent and they themselves require assistance. So the premise of what we do, while we call it a hospitality environment, it's very much you will choose to have us do certain things for you, and in this amenity-rich environment that we've created for you, you're going to enjoy great lifestyle, plus the supports that we provide. Those would not be things that someone who is in their 20s and a bachelor would want to avail themselves of, and nor would we rent to them. While we are not necessarily saying that there's an age qualification, there is certainly some criteria that we would not rent to. And subsequent to that, our leases are very clear. There are no sublets. So there's no Airbnb or sub-rental opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll also ask if Rob Nickel has any comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Obviously, we're just receiving this evening. I'm happy to listen to all the comments from council and as I'm sure from members of the community as well. I look forward to this coming back to council. I've always pushed hard to have the hotel and conference center advance, but after the past two and a half years of the pandemic, I fully understand the need to pause for a bit. And having a seniors complex incorporated into Friday Harbor does make a lot of sense. So I'm still looking forward to the hotel and conference center, but I fully understand the request tonight and look forward to this coming back to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll just make a few comments. I'd love to see a hotel in Innisfil sooner rather than later. It's something that I often get heard. We don't have one here. As for a retirement spot, I think that's another thing council has heard so much, that so many of our seniors have to leave Innisfil, go into Barrie or somewhere else to find a place to stay and continue their life. We have a couple senior homes, senior residences that are on the boards. One, just an example, I think 3 years ago as council, we approved a seniors residence on Big Bay Point Road, and to this date, there hasn't even been construction started on it at all. So that's been very frustrating for myself not to see that move forward. I also had the opportunity to speak to Director Leo Deloitte today, but as a resident of Big Bay Point, I did read in the report that there'll be the buffer that is currently there, that is the town's buffer. There's several trees. I think I counted about a month ago, 23 dead trees within that buffer. As a resident, I'd like to see coniferous trees put in there. Something that sort of blocks Friday Harbor from our road view for 4 seasons, not just 3 seasons. The operations center, I think it was on my desk pre-COVID, and I sent it back because I requested that with the better coniferous tree coverage in that area and indigenous species to that area, not blue spruces. So I think that would help the community a lot, from my perspective anyhow. The Airbnb issue for me has been a pain. Everybody knows it's been a pain with me. It's been a pain at Friday Harbor for some residences there. I've witnessed stuff over the years. To get the hotel built sooner rather than later, I know the industry is flattened, would probably relieve some of the stress that we've had to incur as council from Airbnb. So we will be writing, I can't say that, we will be watching you to make sure that you follow through on the hotel. And that's probably where I got most of my emails from this week, and telephone calls and visits. So it is a key thing in our community. And Leo, would you like to add anything to that, please?
No, I think that's very clear, Deputy Mayor. I think, yeah, we're going to work with Friday Harbor to make sure that the promise of Friday Harbor manifests and the rental agreements are in place. We've seen that. We've been working with architects, preliminary design. So anyhow, we're quite looking forward to the project. It seems to be supported.
And I have to say, Leo Deloitte's been fantastic with council. When we had concerns with Friday Harbor, this guy is true diligence on it. So I really appreciate his help with this. We will now hear from those members of the public who have questions or comments regarding this item before council votes on receiving the report and all comments provided during this meeting. So far, I have a list of in-person speakers on the screen, and I will call your name, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Every person will have an initial 5 minutes and may return to the podium after everyone has had a first round. I'll ask David Saunders.
Deputy Mayor, esteemed members of council, I'm David Sanders, not Saunders, Sanders. I'm a resident now of 5 years at Friday Harbor. I live in the flats over there. I just want to say at the outset that I am opposed to this, where it's a good idea. The builder has over the years promised us so many things. You've touched on some of them, such as the rental program. I know as of about this time last year, it was in council, you had said that the rental program would be up and running no later than December 31st of 2021. That was 137 days ago. That hasn't happened. It's still been put off again. Lots of other things. Don't get me wrong, Friday Harbor is a wonderful place, but the builder has made many, many promises to us, and it always seems he's able to come here somehow and circumvent and get things prolonged and changed. I understand about the hotel. Yeah, it's a crap time for the hotel industry, but there's a lot of other things happening, well, that should be happening that were promised to us over the years that aren't happening. So I would really like to see those things that were promised to us get looked after first, and maybe then later look after a season's retirement resort. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice Sanders.
Good evening, members of council. I have been a full-time resident of Friday Harbor since 2018. My husband and I bought our unit 3 years prior to moving in with a vision in mind. Just to give a bit of background, as I neared retirement, planning for the future became more important than ever, and there were certain criteria that needed to be met. My husband and I had been looking to move out of Toronto and had been looking around at a number of places. We loved that Toronto offered diversity, entertainment, and easy access to restaurants of all kinds. Where else would we find this? I still remember the morning that I was getting ready for work listening to 680 News, hearing the ad for Friday Harbor. I immediately said to him, "We need to check this place out. I think this is what we're looking for, and we can live on a Four Seasons resort." We drove up to the Eagle's Nest that same evening after work and bought on the spot. Their vision was the same as ours. It was a no-brainer. Restaurants and stores on the boardwalk, a shuttle service, a rental program, and oh, let's not forget all the other amenities. A beach, pool, fitness center, tennis courts, a walking trail, golf course, planned entertainment, planned activities. It was condominium living at its best. The presentation center at the Eagle's Nest was something out of a magazine. There was a huge model of their vision on a table as you walked in. All the phases were laid out for us. All that I previously mentioned was in the presentation. The pictures of the resort with the plans, the vision of the final look, it was indeed breathtaking. How could we not buy? So we did. We moved in 2018. So exciting. There was construction all around us. It was dusty, noisy. There was nothing on the boardwalk, no restaurants except for the beach club, no gym. But we didn't mind. We knew what was coming. It's now 2022, so imagine my surprise and my disappointment when it now seems obvious that I am no longer on the same visionary path as Friday Harbor. My first disappointment was the promised and much anticipated members-only lake club. The pool was suddenly smaller, and there is no indoor pool. It didn't even look like the model. Members are only allowed to use this pool 2 hours a day. On the weekends, there have been many occasions that I have been unable to get a booking because of its capacity. So guess what? It wasn't what I was promised. Still, not a Four Seasons facility. The new entertainment area at the pier is beautiful, but it only holds 200 people. It's not the 300-seating amphitheater promised, and to boot, the noise from this venue is disturbing our Big Bay Point neighbors. It was agreed that Friday Harbor would do a noise study to go along with the amphitheater. That has not happened. No amphitheater. In 2020, this council approved the removal of the 300-day rule with the stipulation that a rental program and a hotel and conference center would be in place before anything else would be built. This was the agreement made with council in order to make the changes requested. Well, there is still no rental program, which is much needed, and now the plan is to postpone the much-needed hotel and conference center. Why am I telling you this? First of all, broken promises. But most of all, because my biggest fear is that yet another promise is about to be broken. The vision was for a Four Seasons resort. During the winter, the boardwalk is empty. The stores are empty, and one of our biggest restaurants closes completely. In the summer, during the week, the boardwalk is also empty, and so are the restaurants and shops. Some of the restaurants don't even open 7 days a week. Why? There's nothing at Friday Harbor to attract visitors. There are no amenities for visitors. If we had a hotel, and especially a conference center, these would be the people that would be patrons of the restaurants and stores all year round. Our residents have just this year been hit with approximately 40% increase in fees. We are being asked to pay for the upkeep of this Four Seasons resort that is having a hard time attracting visitors. We only realize 2% of purchases made in the stores and restaurants. Our return is minimal. I have no idea if we need a seniors' home. That is not the point. The point is that the residents of this home will be self-sufficient, so they most certainly will not be significantly contributing to the revenue needed to run the resort.
Excuse me, we're at the 5-minute level. Just you can continue.
We need the hotel, we need the rental program, we need the amphitheater. We need these promises to be met before anything new can be added. If there are changes to be made, perhaps Friday Harbor could look at providing more amenities for their homeowners and more facilities that will attract visitors to the resort. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask Karen Brown. Oh, sorry, there you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Karen Brown, and I'm a homeowner at Friday Harbor. First and foremost, let me say that I do love Friday Harbor. Let's talk first about the short-term rental program. It doesn't exist, although it was promised to council. The goalpost on that keeps moving, and it has done so again in this application. I've heard rumors that there are corporate units being rented through realtors and that Friday Harbor would have you believe this is sufficient for a short-term rental program. This doesn't meet the understanding that all homeowners and council shared, that there would be an equal short-term rental program available for all homeowners. Doing anything less sets homeowners up to compete with entities that have been given special privilege, therefore negatively affecting homeowners. Let's talk about another goalpost that has moved several times, the amphitheater. The original OPA 17 resort management plan called for a small and a large theater, as well as an indoor or outdoor amphitheater. It was a grandiose vision, and no small wonder that it was part of what led council to designate Friday Harbor as an important element in the Innisfil tourism plan. What we have now is a concrete pier. And while it's a fun place to spend Friday and Saturday evenings and listen to live music, it's a far cry from what council and homeowners were sold. What we were promised was a 300-seat amphitheater recessed in the ground, and Friday Harbor was to have completed sound studies with both amplified and unamplified music. The study was never done, and there have been many complaints from our Big Bay Point neighbors about sound levels. Let me be clear. Although Friday Harbor would have you believe that the capacity is 300, and indeed your planners wrote that in their planning opinion report, the LCBO and fire regulation capacity is 200, including 40 seats, full stop. Many of you were invited to a ribbon cutting recently. I'm unclear about what you thought was being celebrated, but I guarantee you it wasn't the opening of a theater of any kind. It was a dog and pony show designed to lead you down a rabbit hole of thinking it's something that it is not. Amenities. We were promised a mind-boggling array of amenities in the Resort Recreation Center. It would include tennis courts, outdoors in the summer, bubbled in the winter, squash courts, indoor and outdoor swimming pools, bowling alleys, and so on. Boat and dock storage as well as medical center were referenced. The hotel would have at least one swimming pool available to their guests and possibly others. Let's talk about the hotel and conference center. The original concept had 2 hotels, a 4-star and a 3-star. They were promised in the early stages. It was later moved to phase 2, and of course now there's only 1 hotel. It's been shuffled around the property, and now the developers want to build it whenever. There's been much talk about why we don't yet have a hotel partner. An economic downturn in 2018 is blamed, hard-hit hotel sector is blamed. Both are disinformation. You can confirm that with a quick Google search, as I did. More likely is that Friday Harbor has been unable to attract a hotel partner to their vision. A hotel representative visiting Friday Harbor would see that 5.5 days a week, even in the height of summer, you can shoot a cannon down the promenade and not hit a soul. Restaurants are choosing to close 1 or 2 days a week, and several retailers will privately say that things are not good. They could read the TripAdvisor reviews that say that while Friday Harbor is indeed beautiful, there's nothing to do. Why would a hotel want to insert itself into a situation where developers have not provided a vibrant, consistently busy base? Good business would dictate that it has to be a partnership. Friday Harbor currently falls short and seems disinterested in providing the elements that would actually turn this into the 4-season world-class resort they claim to want. We desperately need the hotel and conference center to bring a constant stream of new people who will explore the restaurants and stores, as I always do when I attend conferences. That is what will make the resort busy and ultimately the successful tourism venue that Innisfil included in its tourism plan, and that homeowners who bought investment units were promised. The goalposts have got to stop moving. With council's compliance, they have moved several times, but this is the biggest ask of all. To approve it risks turning Friday Harbor into a settlement area. And as the application notes, the developers are beginning to sell off resort land and bring in private businesses that were never contemplated. Removing the checks and balances that the phases were designed to enforce guarantees that only residential units will be built because those are profitable for the developer. This fails to meet your stated goal, and one that your own planners constantly trumpet, of enhancing Friday Harbor's recreational and tourism potential. Phase 2 should not be deemed complete. A hotel, a conference center, amenities, a short-term rental program that benefits all homeowners, a parking structure, completed studies. None of this will be done unless council holds feet to the fire and upholds the agreement that you all signed. I'm asking you to deny this application in its entirety and insist that Friday Harbor meet its obligations to homeowners and to council, as I would ask council to meet its obligations to Friday Harbor homeowners and to its own tourism planning. Multiple planning reports have noted that Friday Harbor is not and will not be a settlement area. Minus the hotel, conference center, and amenities, that's exactly what it is. You believed in the vision then, so did we. Believe in it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll ask for Robert Saunders.
Hi, good evening, Council. I just have a couple questions for Friday Harbor. In their amendments, they say they want a 150-unit retirement home, which is actually not going to be affordable for the average senior. They keep saying elderly, 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 but then they've turned around and said if their units are not rented, they can rent it to whoever they want. So that's not a senior's resident anymore. It says in the amendment, a reception desk and concierge, a dining room, a bar, a lounge, an entertainment unit, a pool. This sounds like a hotel to me. This is going to be run like a hotel, so why are they not building the 200-room hotel instead of the seniors thing? The other thing they haven't brought up at all for anybody that lives in Big Bay Point is the amount of traffic that's going to be put on Big Bay Point with the 150 units with the entrance right on Big Bay Point. They need to go back, redo this, and ask more people on Big Bay Point what's happening, because the traffic on Big Bay Point right now is ridiculous, and with all these new cars coming in and the entrance on Big Bay Point, it needs to be readdressed. I do not think this is going to be a senior's home. I think this is going to be an Airbnb hotel for these guys, because they do not say, they've already said, if they do not rent these rooms to seniors by the month, they will rent them to whoever they want, and they will amend their leases to match it so they get the money at what they need. So like I said, I don't believe that this is going to be a senior's residence. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, I'll ask for Megan Varga.
Hello, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, and Friday Harbor. So I just have 6 quick points. So my concerns are the environmental impact of the underground parking, traffic on Big Bay Point Road as well, and the buffer that the 9 trees where Deputy Mayor said like most of them are dead. Also, this is being marketed as a benefit to Innisfil residents, but what's not being discussed is the cost of these units. So I don't know if most Innisfil residents can afford them. If Friday Harbor, as they spoke this evening, has the option of doing a Friday Harbor branded hotel, what are we waiting for? Right? They keep talking about they need a hotel to buy in if y'all can do it yourself. And I know that residents are waiting for that hotel to be built for their visitors to stay in. So when you're looking at hotel demographics that have deteriorated over the pandemic, you also have to take that into account. There's another demographic of people that are going to utilize that space and that are desperately waiting for that space. And Councillor Ices, you spoke about buses in schools. I stop every morning for the school buses that pick up the kids at Friday Harbor. So there are buses. And if there are rules for the leases as far as subletting and whatever, who's going to enforce that considering nobody enforced the residency restrictions? Those are my 6 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Dimitri.
Good evening. A lot has been said tonight. In many ways, I agree with all the other speakers, especially with Janice and Karen. I was here to object to the approval of the bylaw for the amendment in its current format, and it's its current format. Until the builder provides satisfactory information on the building of the resort hotel and conference center. And second, putting in place a detailed rental program. We purchased in 2017 and 2021 based on this hotel complex, because we all know the viability is based on this resort for that hotel complex to be in place. We expect the builder to honor his commitment to provide a viable plan for this hotel that has achievable timelines for regular review by the City of Innisfil. Unfortunately, I have serious doubts as to the capability to provide a thorough, intricate hotel plan based on the inability to provide even a rental program. We were told the rental program would be in place in the winter of 2017, 5 years ago. Now the request is to move it from 2022 to March 23. That's 6 years. This lack of commitment to produce even a rental program should be a warning to council to ensure that the hotel proposal needs to be steeped in facts, dates, data, and guarantees. Today, for example, real estate people, as was said, are providing their own rental programs that work. This obvious lack of commitment to achieve a rental program and possibly a viable hotel program is of utmost importance. Please scrutinize the hotel program. It's in all our best interest. None of us want Airbnb on site. We would rather have a structured program that works, reduces the noise levels in the complex, have parties that aren't throwing bottles out their apartment balconies, things like that. So again, I just ask you to scrutinize their plan and make sure it's viable. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Pauline Niles.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Davidson, members of council, staff, and members in the audience. I'm Pauline Niles. I live at 3740 Mangusta, and we took possession of our unit in 2017. And I love Friday Harbor. I want to state that for the record. The Big Bay Resort project is a masterpiece, and the vision of building a world-class resort in Innisfil is absolutely extraordinary. Everyone who comes to our place is in awe of its beauty. The Big Bay Point secondary plan set out the details and the policies for the future. The development within the Big Bay Point Resort secondary plan, and in addition to OPA 17 and bylaw 02905. As a community, we remain hopeful that the resort will be built out as agreed, since 3 levels of government were and are involved in the creation of all the rules and policies that exist today. Goals and objectives of the official plan, section 2.3, were established. The rules of engagement were understood by everyone when they purchased, and now the town of Innisfil and Simcoe County is our gatekeeper. We look to you to do the right thing. Since this project started, we have seen a number of rezoning and amendments. Most notable is in 2018, the staff report DSR 08018. And many of you may recall that was the extra 1,000 units that was asked for by Friday Harbor and was given. And I was one of the persons here before you supporting that application, because I believed at the time it was good for the resort. It will bring in the right amount of revenue through the basic fee and the lake club fee. And that remains, a supporting point for me to this date. There were many other bylaws amendment. And I'm asking this council and staff that serious consideration must be given towards all prior amendments, the 1,000-day, the 300-day rule, and last year's application, the removal of the hotel. There were many, many things that the councillors were told that Friday Harbor will have to abide by and do, and we see the goalposts, as other members have stated, being moved. We need a right mix of amenities. When this project started, the official provincial plan was to ensure a vibrant tourism industry in the town of Innisfil as a pass-through, people going to Wasaga Beach or going to Blue Mountain. This was that pass-through. The right mix of amenities and recreational will bring the visitors that Friday Harbor need for continued growth and success. Fee increases alone is not sustainable. As we have seen this year, we've had 2 substantive fee increase, and we need the visitors. The to and fro traffic is very, very important. So I'm asking and urging the member of council to carefully consider all risk factors and future economic burden on the residents, the unit owners at Friday Harbor, and also to consider the build-out of 1,000 units and the possible turnover to the Resort Association to sustain a massive infrastructure. Currently, we pay taxes and we receive 0 municipal service. To maintain this massive infrastructure, both on the underground and above ground, requires a substantial amount of money. And so we really need to think about the future.
Excuse me, your time is almost up.
Okay, and take all that information into consideration prior to making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons in the chamber at this time that would like to make a comment? Terry, I know over here. And yes, okay. We'll ask you to come over to the podium area. Thank you. Please give us your name and address so we can put it on record. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name's Terry Lindsay. I live at 3625 Maple Grove Road on Innisfil Beach Road. This council member in my brief conversation earlier brought up the consideration, and my concern is that this new proposal, is it going to bring in the same development charges as the 400 townhouses? And is it going to bring in the same tax revenue for property taxes as the townhouses? My concern is that being a grumpy senior at 76 years old, I pay full freight on Maple Grove Road and I get very little value for my taxes. And I'm concerned that I don't want anybody coming in this town and getting a free ride anymore. Thank you for your time. And obviously I was in conversation with the lovely young lady, Vanessa. Voicemail number 1 was at August the 8th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Voicemail. August the 10th, 2:07, voicemail. August the 12th, 2:52, voicemail. Phoned back to the town and found out that when I told I was going to put an official complaint because I wasn't getting any response. About a minute later, a young lady came on the phone and had a conversation with me regarding my concerns and said she didn't know anything about the concept and would have to pass it on to the fine staff at the taxation office regarding these concerns. and I haven't heard any response back since. And I don't think it's rocket science to get back to me as to how I phrased the conversation with her. And I'm concerned that the lack of, shall we say, due diligence in getting back on such a simple matter is concerning to me as a taxpayer. Thank you for your time. Appreciate, and I like some comments getting back to me on these items. I just want to make sure I've got a clarification here that they are going to pay the same freight as if it was townhouses, all the way across the board.
Thank you, Terry. What I'm going to do is listen to members of the public first, then we'll cycle back to council, and council can get clarification on those questions. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk to you about the problem of...
Just read your name and address, please.
Oh, Margot Taylor, 35 Campus Place at Big Bay Point. We have a very big problem with transportation on Big Bay Point Road. I have been down this road after 8:30 at night on a Saturday night, and there are cars on both sides of the street, all the way down, people getting out of cars, even with dogs and children. There is an accident waiting to happen. When I first started to go to the meetings in Stroud for the creation of Friday Harbor, they said to us there would be no road entrance onto Big Bay Point Road. We have now got 2 road entrances that a lot of the people in Friday Harbor are using. They are not going to over to the 13th concession. A few years ago, no, it's probably far more than that, right, Mayor, Deputy Mayor? We found out that they were going to put no parking signs, which they did do, all through Big Bay Point Road because of the numbers of fishermen coming and taking over the streets. I would like to ask that consideration be given that no parking zone, no parking signs be put up on Big Bay Point Road, and that the Friday Harbor people are requested not to have those roads open. In consideration of this community, it's the least thing we can expect. Thank you.
Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Dudley. I live at West Street, 27-year resident. And initially I supported Friday Harbor, and Deputy Mayor can attest to that, and so can Cheryl and Mario, he just stepped out. But in the last few years, I've become disillusioned, and I think Friday Harbor is becoming a poor corporate citizen. A couple of the issues have already been raised. So, the traffic, the parking issues, and the noise. And I think it's no coincidence that that amphitheater is pointed towards the old Big Bay Point community, not at the Friday Harbor community. And I can sit out on my porch and I can listen to the words. It's no longer just thump, thump, thump. I can listen to the words. So I think there's an issue. I'm not sure what the bylaws say, but whatever's going on, it's inadequate. I was looking at some of the diagrams today, and the admin center was built closer to the road than originally planned. There was supposed to be tree buffer, and the building is ugly. It is not a pretty sight for the people living directly across the road. And the diagram showed that the retirement center would also be built forward, cutting off some of that tree buffer. So, they're reneging on what the original plans were. And in one of the other diagrams, the boundary for Friday Harbor seemed to include the West Street Beach, which is deeded to the residents of Big Bay Point. So I'm not sure if that was a mistake on their part, or if it's deliberate that they think they are going to be able to kind of have squatters' rights to taking over that part of the beach. So that's my comments, and hopefully council will be less generous to Friday Harbor and trying to hold their feet to the fire to do some of the things they said they were going to do, both with the old parts that are already built and the new stuff that they're proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. Any other people from the audience have any questions at this time? I don't see any hands up. I'll circle back to council at this time, and one moment, I just got to talk with our clerk.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, we've got an electronic participant who wanted to participate during the public consultation, that if we could go to that person, they're waiting ready, and then we can go to back to council with a recommendation and any other further comments or questions.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Let me just look here. Okay, now we'll go to the pre-registered speakers who are participating electronically. We only have one speaker registered, so I would ask Leandra and Donetti to please turn your audio and video, and you may provide your comments or concerns at this time. Once you've provided your comments, you may remain in the meeting, but please ensure that your audio or video are turned off. You may also leave the meeting and watch on the town's YouTube stream. Thank you.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, the person did sign into the meeting, but it looks like they do not wish to speak this evening.
Thank you. At this time, I'll return back to council for some questions, and I'll start with Councillor Kenneth Fowler. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one question and one statement at this moment in time. There was talk of the seniors residence with Friday Harbor working in conjunction with the particular company. Now, the question that comes to mind is, I understand the way the DC charges work, that they'd be required to pay them to the town for the construction. Who would bear the burden of the taxes, the property taxes for said property? Would it be shared between the residents who rent, or would it be owned by the corporation who then have to make up the funds for? So,
I'll call on Michael and Cheryl.
To you, Councillor Fowler. First of all, I want to say that the building will be constructed and will pay its full share of development charges. And with respect to property taxes, Mr. Lavallee can respond to that, but the entity will pay its property taxes. And I imagine those taxes, the costs of those taxes are covered off by the rents charged to the tenants.
Through the chair, exactly, much like any other landlord.
If I can follow up with one thing then. There was questions brought up earlier of if the units are not being rented out accordingly, that they can be done. Is there, I personally would like to see the potential for subsidy if a person cannot afford a rental unit in this scenario, and we have a housing crisis with our seniors. Is it not feasible then to give them the opportunity to afford a place to live in that regard, even as a short-term basis? Is that not something we can do, as opposed to altering the dynamic of the building should their units not be rented out?
So again, through the chair. So let me begin by saying that affordable housing and municipal supports go hand in hand. That's not what's being discussed here today. This is a regular private pay retirement home. Much like any other accommodation, it is market driven. And so while there is a lot of concern that unrented units will be rented at any cost, that obviously is not in the best interest of the residents that are living there and going to choose to live there, because it alters the characteristic of the promise that we as Seasons are making to the tenants that are going to choose to live there. And secondly, it's not good business to just have people pay anything and degrade the reputation of the services that we consider this is going to be a premium experience, and very much in keeping with all of the concerns that have been shared by all of the RA owners. That this has to dovetail into the community as a whole. So we consider this a premium experience. And while I appreciate that there's concern on affordability, if we want to have a conversation with the municipality on creating affordable housing, that would be something that we should do outside of this discussion.
Thank you.
I think I would add, Councillor, that Seasons has done their market research, and they're here because they believe that what they are proposing does have a market, there is a need for it, and that it will be successful.
So in essence, you're saying that they've done the market research and there is sufficient capabilities to rent out to the seniors that require such services?
Correct. Through the chair, yes.
Thanks. I'll go to Councillor Alex Waters next, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we heard loud and clear that people love Friday Harbor, but you haven't lived up to your obligations to your residents. And so I'm glad that they came out and voiced that, because I don't go to Friday Harbor enough to hear that, and when I do go, I'm usually eating at a restaurant. So I'm glad those people who did vote came out and voiced your opinion, because it's a concern that Council probably hasn't heard. I think you've voiced the concern that we've had, that the goalposts have been moving, and we have been lenient with Friday Harbor, because we all want Friday Harbor to be successful. So I guess my question is, can Seasons wait to get an answer until we get the accommodations piece done in terms of short-term rentals? Because that, from what I've heard tonight, people have been waiting for that. I haven't heard a reason why we still don't have it. Like, why March? Why can't we have it by the end of the year? So if people want us to put your feet to the fire, then maybe we should just suggest that let's get that done first of all. Show some good faith here that you can get that done, so that these people can say that Council is doing their job and that Friday Harbor is holding up their obligations. Thank you.
Next, I'll go to Councillor Donna Rosati.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, having been an administrator at Sandy Cove Acres, currently owned by Parkbridge, for 20 years, there is a great need in our community for a seniors rental apartment. There are many residents, as Councillor Payne would know, that live in Sandy Cove that ask for that. When will there be that available in Innisfil? Because they don't want to move out of the area. And many people that are living in their homes want to stay in Innisfil, but they want to be in a senior's apartment. And it's because they need that connection. They don't want to have the ownership. They want to take the equity out of their home, and that's what pays for their apartment. So I see a great need for this in our community.
Thank you. Did you want to
Mr. Chairman, maybe I could respond to Councillor Waters. So there's one reason why Seasons shouldn't wait, because there is a need today. And secondly, I think we heard from a number of people that we need more people there to support the businesses so that they can, have more extensive hours, et cetera. So it's a series of building blocks, and we're trying to deliver the vision as quickly as we can. It takes time. And so I would say that, this will help to bring more people to the resort as we continue to put those other pieces in place.
Did you want to do a follow-up? Thank you.
What guarantee we're going to have the program by March? Because, like I said, some people have been waiting since 2018 for this. And it's not rocket science. We can go to Blue Mountain, and they've done it. So I don't understand why it's taking so long for this to happen.
Well, the program has been mapped out, and I'm pretty confident that Hanny will have it in place, if not by the end of this year, by the beginning of next year, which is what we've asked for consideration of.
I think Hani would like to speak.
Mr. Rustem, would you like to speak?
Mr. Councillor, so on the topic of the rental program, I do understand the importance of the rental program, but I do also would like to emphasize the importance or the point that every time we wanted to really launch something, we wanted it to really be launched right, and we wanted it to really reflect really well on the Friday Harbor brand, but then also on the community of Innisfil and the town of Innisfil as well. Personally, I have been involved in studying the framework for a successful rental program. I do understand the commitments that were made before, but I also want to re-emphasize the importance of doing something and doing it right. Having been engaged personally in studying the rental program and a successful framework, and most importantly as well, a sustainable framework. Part of the due diligence, we had to really engage the different condo corps that exist at Friday Harbor. At Friday Harbor, there are 6 different condo corps. Each of the condo corps have their different guidelines about short-term rentals within the condo corps. By example, some of them require a 3-month minimum stay within their condo corps. Other ones, they require 1 month. Others were on 3 days that they just increased lately to 1 week and then again to 1 month. Other condo corps have a minimum stay of 4 days and other 3 days. So it's very important that we really look at all these different guidelines and requirements of the different condo corps so that if we're launching something, it really works and meets the requirements of the condo corps themselves. But again, as I mentioned earlier, that is really a program that is sustainable and it's able to really reflect well on all of us, whether as a destination, i.e. in the town of Innisfil, or whether Friday Harbor as a brand. And I hope that really helps explain some of the due diligence and the time that's being put in studying what is really right and whatever the importance of really implementing something that again, that is sustainable, that is successful, and reflects well on everyone. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I know that Councillor Rob Nicol is in the background. Do you have anything to add to this, Councillor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, just following along with procedure, I think we had a pretty good discussion on this and some good banter back and forth. We're just receiving this, so I'm happy to go to the recommendation and wait for this to come back to council at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a resident of Big Bay Point, trust me, the parking, I think it's Megan, I had been in discussions last fall with Friday Harbor to enhance the parking lot because the parking lot was not adequate. It was actually, I'd contacted emergency services and our concerns with parking on both sides of the road. And I'm going to say, trust me, it's been a lot of back and forth. So I'm going to go back 15 days ago, they promised me there would be a new parking lot at Friday Harbor. It did open on Friday, a 250-car parking lot, so I was glad to see that. And when I drove down Saturday and Sunday, both days, to make sure there were I only saw 2 Porsches parked on Big Bay Point Road. So whoever owned those Porsches, I was going to write a little note to them on their car. And the other question that was brought up was there was parking was the issue. And noise from Mr. Dudley. Yes, I can hear the DJ in my house, so I have been working diligently with Hani and with senior management of Friday Harbor to tone it down and to get rid of the bass and have the DJ stop talking over the music. I did monitor. I was working with an engineering group over this past weekend, unbeknownst to Friday Harbor. It's part of my job as deputy mayor. And they did call me today to give me the results, but unfortunately I was coming into this meeting, so I didn't get the results of I think, Megan, your property was used as a sound test area for the noise from Friday Harbor. I have been sort of called a few names by a few neighbors east of me recently that I'm not doing my job and I'm in your pocket, which I'm not. They are working on the noise, and when I get this data, I can make it public to everybody what is the decibels that we're looking at for the noise. But I did stay awake to both nights, Monday, Friday, and Saturday night till midnight, working with bylaw as well. I've worked with the town to bring the noise level down for our community. You councillors aren't in that area, but it was getting pretty loud for a while there. So they are trying to appease the neighborhood, and we'll see where that goes in the next few weeks. So I'm pleased with that. That's my perspective on what's been going on at Friday Harbor for the last few weeks. And other than the speeding, which drives me nuts, but we did do a ride program, I know, a speeding program last Monday. And it wasn't people from Friday Harbor that were speeding, it was locals that were speeding. So it was quite interesting to see the data on that. And okay, so there's nobody else at this time ready to speak. Now we'll go to the recommendation on the screen and can I have a mover and a seconder, Ken Fowler and Kevin Ices. And motion, all in favor? Thank you. If you had not made oral or written submissions in regard to this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by council. Please contact the clerk's office at innisfil.ca. Thank you to everyone who has taken time to attend or watch this meeting and presentation. And for those in the chamber, you may stay for the rest of the meeting or leave at any time. The next item on tonight's agenda concerns an application for proposed amendments to the Town of Innisfil's official plan and zoning bylaw for 7403 County Road 27. I'll just wait for the room to clear before we continue. That emptied the room pretty fast. Okay. We will now hear from the town clerk on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on July 27th, 2022, and the notice was circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on July 26, 2022, in accordance with the regulations. Corresponding signage was posted on the property on June 13th, and notice was provided in the August 4th issue of the Innisfil Journal. Information and materials respecting this application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page. Thank you.
Thank you. Has any correspondence been received by the clerk's services concerning the proposed amendments?
Yes, we did have one piece of correspondence from Ken Rounds, president of the Simcoe County Christian Farmers Association, dated August 9th, expressing the association's support of the application.
Thank you. We will hear first from Vanessa Witt, Senior Planner, who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context of the proposed draft plan of subdivision.
Thank you. Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. The third item on this evening's public meeting agenda is to discuss amendments to the town's official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw 080-13 for the lands located at 7403 County Road 27 to convert an existing poultry barn into an on-farm diversified use in the form of a self-storage facility with a small office space and an agriculture-related use in the form of a farm products sales shop. Next slide, please. The farm product sales shop is existing and permitted in the zone, but it's included in these applications as it would contribute to the requested increase in gross floor area for the uses being considered. So the purpose of these applications is to redesignate a portion of the subject property, approximately 2 hectares, from agricultural area to agricultural area special section, and to rezone a portion of the subject property from agricultural general zone to agricultural general exception zone. Next slide, please. The subject property is located in the southeast corner of County Road 27 and the 9th line. The property is 20.92 hectares in area and has approximately 600 meters of frontage on the 9th line and 340 meters of frontage on County Road 27. The property currently contains a single detached dwelling, a poultry barn, and accessory agricultural structures generally located in the southwest area of the property, and the remainder of the property is mainly used for crop production. Next slide, please. The application will be reviewed with respect to the planning policy document shown on the slide, as well as the community strategic plan, and this information is detailed in the staff report on attachment 5. Next slide, please. So regarding next steps for this application, staff will review and consider all public, council, department, and agency comments and report back to council with a recommendation at a future council meeting. Notice will be provided to everyone who requested notification or submitted written correspondence. And staff note that if the official plan amendment is adopted by Town Council and approved by the County of Simcoe, the zoning bylaw amendment is approved by Town Council, a subsequent site plan control process is required to facilitate and regulate the proposed development under Section 41 of the Planning Act. And following this presentation, the applicant will provide further details on the amendment as part of their presentation. Next slide, please. So town staff are present tonight to answer any questions that council or members of the public may have. And if any questions or comments arise after the meeting, feel free to reach out to myself or provide your comments on the town's Get Involved website, which can be accessed using the QR code on the screen. Thank you.
We will now hear from Tyler Kowal from Innovative Planning Solutions, who will provide further context for the proposed application.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Tyler Kowal. I'm a planner with Innovative Planning Solutions, representing our clients and their applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, again at 703 County Road 27. These applications support a proposed conversion of a poultry barn, as mentioned, into 2 on-farm diversified uses, which will be discussed in this presentation, which I will try to be brief with. Next slide, please. The subject lands are about 20.92 hectares in size, with frontage on 9th Line as well as County Road 27, sited southeast of the intersection. Mr. Dykstra operates a farm on the property, which has been in his family for over 40 years, with, as mentioned, a farm gate sales operation, very small in size, occupying the front portion of a large barn on the property. That barn being approximately 2,000 meters square in size, which has been in continuous poultry production serving the Simcoe area for nearly 50 years. The lands also contain a farmhouse and other accessory farm-related structures. All structures are generally clustered in the southeast of the property, leaving the remainder of the property for crop production, except for vegetation near the south property line, which is associated with Thornton Creek. The property is accessed by a driveway from County Road 27, and all of this can be seen in the image. The property, of course, outlined in red, and you can see the structures, including the large kind of L-shaped barn near the southwest corner. Next slide, please. Surrounding uses in the immediate area are identified on this slide, with the property highlighted in red. So just pause for a few seconds so you can take that in. Okay, next slide. Thank you. With the property outlined in red again, Schedule B of the Town of Innisfil official plan designates most of its agricultural area. A southern portion of the property is designated key natural heritage feature and key hydrologic feature, as can be seen in this image. Next slide, please. With the property again outlined in red, the Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw zones the property agricultural general, or AG, as well as environmental protection, EP, as can be seen, of course, in this image. And the EP is, as you would guess, associated with Thornton Creek, which runs along the south property limit. Next slide, please. To provide some important context, the poultry industry's new modular loading requirements are not compatible with the 8-foot ceiling heights of the current chicken barn, as a minimum of 9 feet is required for single-story barns of this nature. In short, with modular loading, each module would be lifted off the truck with a forklift. Once full, the forklift would carry the module with the chickens back to the truck. The greater height and vertical clearance requirements would be necessary to accommodate the forklift operations. As barns in Ontario, all barns in Ontario must be modular loading ready by December 31st of 2024. However, the applicant's processor actually requires it that he convert by spring 2023 to continue operations. The crucial matter here is that Mr. Dykstra has determined it is not economically viable to retrofit or replace the existing barn, unfortunately, because of the low ceiling and the amount of works that would be required to replace that structure or significant renovations to comply with the standards and continue poultry operation. Essentially, you'd be looking at a whole new structure if you're looking at a whole new roof, and that's the short of it. So just staying on the slide for a second, you can see for reference the bottom left corner of the bottom left image right there is an image of the existing structure along the south side. And then image on the top right corner is an example from the Ontario provincial website regarding modular loading practices. You get a sense of how that would operate with a forklift for a two-story building. And then lower image is more similar to ours with a one-story building. You can see, again, the forklift operation and the kind of scale you need vertically to accommodate. Next slide, please. The applicant proposes to repurpose the structure, converting it into a self-storage facility and a small farm product sales shop. Self-storage business portion would occupy the majority of the structure at approximately 1,900 square meters. Vehicles would access from the existing driveway from County Road 27 and go around to the south side of the structure, where a continuous drive aisle would be provided. The south side of the building would feature vertical storage, several storage unit doors with periodic man doors that provide access to a second internal row of units with also a hallway as well that runs down the middle. A small farm product sales shop, as mentioned, is proposed to occupy about 100 meters square at the front or west side of the building, enabling Mr. Dykstra to continue selling his local farm products and provide an attractive storefront facing the road. The intention is to maintain the balance of the property for its current use, which is agricultural in nature, while repurposing what would otherwise be a vacant agricultural building for two compatible and supportive on-farm diversified uses, providing additional revenues to support the balance of the family farm. And just staying on this slide for a second, again, the picture kind of in the middle at the top there is another view of the south side of the barn from the other direction. Exactly that image right there to the right is an interior view of the length of the structure. And that would essentially be where these storage units would be retrofitted inside. And then the bottom image there is showcasing the extent of the application outlined in gray. It takes an area of 0.4 hectares in size, and the actual building is delineated by the yellow outline. So in other words, the parking and access aisle is everything outside of the yellow, but in gray still. Next slide, please. Provincial policy defines on-farm diversified uses as uses that are secondary to agriculture and limited in area. Both uses would meet these criteria. OMAFRA's guidelines state that they can include a wide variety of uses that are related to agriculture, supportive of agriculture, or able to coexist with agriculture. And they should be intended to enable farm operators to diversify and supplement their farm income. The use must be located on a farm, be secondary to the principal use, be limited in area, and remain compatible with surrounding agriculture. The proposed farm product sales shop is related to agriculture, supportive of agriculture, and can coexist with agriculture. Similarly, the proposed self-storage facility would diversify and supplement the farm income while remaining compatible and non-disruptive. Under the provincial growth plan, where agricultural and non-agricultural uses interface, impacts on the agricultural system should be minimized. The proposed uses would see periodic visitors, and their operations will be limited to the confines of the existing structure with little impact. The growth plan promotes geographic and economic connections to the agri-food network, and the uses will be confined again to the existing barn structure and buffered from agriculture. The farm product sales shop would also additionally enhance the local economic connections to the agri-food network. Next slide, please. And sorry, just additionally, the municipalities are encouraged as well to implement approaches to sustain the agricultural system, long-term economic prosperity, and the viability of the agri-food industry. These uses would therefore generate revenue for the family farm and bolster the agricultural economy. The County of Simcoe official plan directs that compatible uses and facilities supporting the agricultural economy and local food system should be accommodated. The proposed uses are supportive while remaining compatible with surrounding agricultural activities and preserving rural character. The agricultural designation permits on-farm diversified uses secondary to the principal agricultural use, and the proposed uses meet these criteria. Similarly, in the town's official plan, it permits on-farm diversified uses in the current agricultural area designation, and the town commits to supporting local businesses, providing opportunities for value-added agricultural activities and businesses that support farming. Under current zoning, home industries are permitted as well, and this is what the use would be considered under the zoning context of the zoning bylaw. They include services operating within an accessory building accessory to the primary use of the property. Based on this definition, the self-storage facility can be considered a home industry. Next slide, please. The official plan, although I should mention the official plan does limit on-farm diversified uses to a maximum gross floor area of 500 meters squared, and the gross floor area required for the facility would necessitate an official plan amendment. A partial lot amendment under the OP would be required, which proposes to redesignate a portion of the lands approximately 0.4 hectares in size, as shown in gray again, to permit an on-farm diversified use in the form of a self-storage facility not exceeding 1,900 square meters of GFA, provided it operates within the former poultry barn. And secondly, it also would permit a combined total GFA of all on-farm diversified uses on the property, including self-storage and, again, farm product sales of 2,000 meters square. And of course, you get that 2,000 number because it's 1,900 for the storage and approximately 1,000 for the sales shop. And this is conditional on that they continue to operate within the former poultry barn. Next slide, please. And very similar to the nature of the official plan amendment, we're going to speak briefly on the zoning. So similarly, the zoning bylaw requires that a maximum GFA of 500 square meters is applied for, in this case, a home industry. Therefore, the gross floor area required for the facility would necessitate a zoning bylaw amendment. So a partial lot zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the portion of the lands, again, the same 0.4 hectares as shown in gray, to permit, number one, a home industry in the form of a self-storage facility with a maximum GFA of 1,900 square meters, again, provided it operates within the former poultry barn. Additionally, the amendment would permit a combined GFA of 2,000 square meters for the sum of all on-farm diversified uses, including self-storage and farm product sales, provided, again, they operate within the former structure. A number of materials, sorry, next slide. Thank you. A number of materials have been prepared and submitted in support of the application. You can see them on this slide here. I should highlight one specifically at the bottom there. It is the storage market analysis report. This report, in short, demonstrated a significant need for additional self-storage space for the market area, analyzing demographics, site location, and low vacancy rates of other facilities within the area. Next slide, please. In summary, the applicant's current agricultural building, a poultry barn, is not compatible with the new modular loading practices the applicant would have to implement by spring of 2023 to continue operations due to the structure's limited height. Mr. Dykstra seeks to be proactive in repurposing his chicken barn, converting to an on-farm diversified use and accompanying agriculturally related use. Such uses are permitted under current zoning and official plan designations. However, amendments are required to permit the gross floor area of the existing structure, which would be fully utilized. The proposed uses will remain compatible with agriculture and serve the surrounding community while supplementing farm income, ensuring the continued viability of the family farm. The applications conform to all levels of county policy and provincial policy documents, as well as the general intent of the Town of Innisfil official plan and general intent of the Innisfil zoning bylaw. For these reasons, we believe the proposal represents good planning and is in the public interest. Next slide, please. So I should note that we have received supportive comments from both the Christian Farmers Federation of Ontario as well as former councillor Paul Wardlaw. I also note that we have received comments from the County of Simcoe noting no objection to the application, as well as no comments from Township Engineering, understanding that generally minor matters in nature, which would be reserved for detailed design and site plan in the future. So this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from council at this time? Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have one question. It's regarding precautions for fire safety. Is there any plan? I didn't see anything in here about plans on sprinklers or anything in that.
So through the chair, that's a great question. No, there haven't, but I guess the response to that would be at this stage in the planning process, it's simply the zoning amendment and official plan amendment, and all of those matters would be addressed through detailed design at the site plan application stage. So should the rezoning be approved, should the official plan amendment be approved, the entire development, when we have to submit for formal site plan application, there'll be a host of requirements, and that will come up as part of the site plan review process, as well as, of course, building permit that is to code. So, yep.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Asadi.
Thank you. I think when I was reading this, our farmers are facing many challenges with changes in the communities and loss of land. And I applaud this family for looking at ways of diversification of the land. And with a farm-to-table shop, it brings the farmers close to the community. The storage is a new way of using a building instead of demolishing, a farming barn, and because we lose so many of those structures. So I think this is a great way of preserving farmland and supporting our farmers, and I think it's a great project.
Councillor Kevin Ices.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I would also like to commend the Dykstra family on bringing this forward. It's difficult when you're the first one to make these changes. And I know when I spoke to you way back, Doug, this just made so much common sense. We have an old farm building that's not useful anymore, and what do we do with it? I was taken back a little bit with the one photo of the inside of the barn. I remember as a young person on a church fundraising project, picking chickens in that barn, and I'm glad that technology does change, because it was a fun job because of the people you were with, but it's not a fun job. So that's what we see in agriculture all the time, and so we have these buildings that are left, and so this preserves that, and it's reusable. It does all the things we want to do as a society, renewing things and not having to knock them down. So this change will allow other farm buildings to have the opportunity to have different income streams through them. So I can see that this will be helpful to other farmers as they try to support their farms economically, but also save older buildings. So I totally support this. The one question I did have, will there be any thought of any outside storage with this project?
Again, great question. Through the chair, this was discussed not in terms of being proposed, but it's come up before in terms of, I know it's a sensitive topic with the town to have outdoor storage, and that's certainly not something that's considered with this application. Everything has to be within the existing structure, and that's what the purpose of the bylaws, even the verbiage in the bylaws, however they're written, will be written to ensure that that's the case, that the uses are occupying the existing structure and within those walls. And the retrofits to the structure will include the storage doors, whereby the units internal and facing the exterior will be loaded. So there is no proposal for outside storage whatsoever.
Thank you.
I'll also ask Councillor Rob Nicol if he has anything to comment at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those members of the public who have questions or comments regarding this item before Council votes on receiving the report and all comments provided during this meeting. Anyone from the audience? Okay, I see no one at this time. Now we'll go to the recommendation on the screen. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Bill Van Berkel and Carolyn Payne. All in favor? Carried. I have a question. Seconder? Carolyn Payne. If you have not made an oral or written submission in regard to this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by Council. Please contact the clerk's office at innisfil.ca. I'd like to thank everyone who has taken time to attend or watch this meeting and presentation. The next item on tonight's agenda concerns an application for proposed amendment to the Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw 3260 9th line. We will now hear from the town clerk how this public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on July 28th, 2022, and the notice was circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on July 28th as well, in accordance with the regulations. Corresponding signage was posted on the property on July 28th, 2022, and information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page. Thank you.
Has any correspondence been received by the clerk's services concerning the proposed amendments?
We have not received any correspondence on this matter.
We will first hear from Chris Cannon, placemaker and planner, who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context of the proposed draft plan of subdivision. Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. This evening's public meeting is to discuss a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted on behalf of the owner, Watersand Construction Limited. The lands are located at 3260 9th line. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the subject lands to facilitate future employment uses. Next slide. The lands subject to the zoning bylaw amendment application are known municipally as 3260 9th line and are located on the north side of 9th line, east of Bowman Street within the Innisfil Heights Strategic Employment Area. Next slide. Planning staff have reviewed the proposed zoning bylaw amendment with respect to the planning policy documents shown on the slide and which are noted in the staff report as attachment 4. There have been no concerns to date regarding the proposed rezoning of the subject lands. The next steps are to review and consider all public, council, department, and agency comments and report back to council on a recommendation at a future council meeting. Notice will be provided to all who requested notification and/or submitted written correspondence. Next slide. And I thank you.
Thank you. I just have to check my notes here. We will now hear from Kenneth McKinnon from KLM Planning Partners concerning the proposed application.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm trying to wreck the joint, apparently. Thanks, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, members of the public. My name is actually Keith McKinnon, but that's okay. I'm with KLM Planning Partners, Inc., here before you this evening on behalf of Watersand Construction, Inc., care of DG Group. Now, Deputy Mayor, my presentation deals actually with both properties, given that they are identical, save and except for one small exception for 7651 Five Side Road. So I think with your indulgence, my presentation will deal with both properties, if that's okay. I just figured it's a better...
Just checking with the clerk's office.
Okay. Just if it's a better use of people's time, I think, given that everything is the same. So I think it's just better use of that way. So next slide, please. So the subject properties, the first one is the easterly one, which is 3260 9th line. It's the most easterly one you see highlighted in red with the label of eastern parcel. And then the western parcel is 7651 Five Side Road. The subject parcels are obviously south of Mackay Road, north of Innisfil Beach Road. The westerly one, of course, is east of Five Side Road. And the easterly one is east of Highway 400. The subject properties are approximately 34 and 38 hectares in size. Next slide, please. Of course, with every application that comes before council, we have a number of different documents we have to review as professional planners to ensure that we're meeting provincial policies, county policy, and of course town policy, one of which of course is the provincial policy statement, which outlines a number of guidelines and policies that seek different forms of development, employment type uses obviously being a critical component, which these lands are of course a part of. And as subject to our application, we feel that this application is certainly consistent with the PPS. Next slide. Next one, of course, is a place to grow, the growth plan. Oh, can you just move one back, please? Thank you. We have the growth plan, which obviously sets out a number of directives through municipalities, of which we have to abide by with reviewing development applications. Next slide, please. As part of that work, there is, as you know, the Innisfil Heights Strategic Settlement Employment Area, which forms a large component of the growth plan. Thankfully, the minister, I know through great efforts from council back in April of 2020, was successful in having the minister amend the Innisfil Heights Strategic Settlement Employment Area to expand the boundary. So the expansion of the boundary not only included these two parcels to the north, so it effectively squared it off, but also included additional land to the south down to the 6th line, I believe. So as part of this, these two applications, they form part of the Innisfil Heights Strategic Settlement Employment Area. We actually, as part of our original application, had filed an official plan amendment because when we filed back in 2019, these lands were not part of the Innisfil Heights Strategic Settlement Employment Area. But once they became part of that boundary through the minister's MZO, our official plan amendment was no longer required. Next slide, please. Of course, we have the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. The easterly parcel is entirely within the Lake Simcoe watershed. The westerly portion is about half within the Lake Simcoe watershed, and the westerly portion being in the Nottawasaga Valley watershed. And of course, we believe the proposed application certainly conforms to the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. Next slide. We have, of course, the County of Simcoe official plan, which designate these as agricultural. We all know the county is embarking upon a large municipal comprehensive review process, so that certainly has not caught up yet to the revision that's been made to the growth plan to expand these lands in this Innisfil Heights Strategic Settlement Employment Area. But given that it's an MZO approved by the minister, that takes precedent over and above what the current designation in the county OP is. Next slide, please. We, of course, have the Town of Innisfil official plan, which designates it as municipal strategy, per municipal strategy, which is Schedule A. Subject lands are identified as future strategic settlement employment area. So obviously back in 2018 and even earlier than that when work was being undertaken by the town, these lands were certainly identified as a future expansion to the employment area. As part of the Schedule B, which is the land use plan, they're still designated as agriculture, again, because your OP has not yet been revised to reflect the amendments to the growth plan, but again, given that's an MZO, it does take precedent over those documents. So next slide, please. That's the Schedule B. Next slide, please. Sorry, original was Schedule A. This is Schedule B, the land use plan. Next slide, please. So the crux of our application, that's before council as part of the public meeting this evening is a zoning bylaw amendment application. So your current Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw zones these lands as agricultural. So our proposed rezoning application is to rezone it from the agricultural zone to a site-specific Innisfil Heights Business Park Zone, or IBP zone, site-specific for short. Next slide, please. So the most easterly parcel you could see in the hatching is slated to be within a site-specific Innisfil Heights Business Park Zone, or IBP zone for short. The westerly one you can see is actually split into two. So the line in the center, what that is proposed to do is put the easterly portion of that property within a primary visual area. So what that primary visual area is, if you see in your official plan, there's actually a limit that encompasses all lands on the east and west side that are within the Innisfil Heights Business Park area that have visual frontage along Highway 400. There's specific criteria that relates to those lands. So some of the things that are going to be required for that primary visual area, such thing as open storage will not be permitted. You will have to have an enhanced urban design component as part of the building facade for anything that will be visual by Highway 400. So that's why that portion is split into two. So the westerly portion of that parcel will not be subject to that because it won't have visibility from Highway 400, but the easterly portion of that will. And then the easterly parcel, so east of 400, will not be because it obviously has no visual impact related to Highway 400. So as part of our site-specific zoning amendment, what we've done is we've looked at the Innisfil Business Park, or the IBP zone for short, and looked at the permitted uses that are currently offered today, which are quite broad and open. But in order to ensure we can attract users for these two parcels, we wanted to broaden the permitted uses a little bit more to add a few more things. So some of the things that we've added, and this is certainly still subject to review with town staff, but we've added a concrete or asphalt batching and recycling plant, storage, crushing, screening, or washing of sand, gravel, ballast, or similar material, dry cleaning establishment, manufacture of concrete products, self-storage units, and utility yards. So all those permitted uses are actually already permitted in Innisfil Heights today in different categories, but the site-specific provision that we were requesting that is the most permissive zone doesn't permit those. So that's why we've proposed to add these, just to broaden the range of uses to ensure that we can make sure these lands are successful in the future. Next slide, please. So as part of our applications, there were a number of different studies that were filed and are under review by town staff. I certainly won't repeat them all, but there were a number that were requested. Next slide, please. So with that, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and staff and members of the public, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that may arise.
I'd like to thank you, Keith. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With the proposed uses that you were just talking about, seems like could produce a lot of dust. And if I'm getting it properly, it's just north of where the casino is and the racetracks. Is that going to be a problem for that? For the casino, if they've got a lot of dust in the air coming, especially if there's a north wind coming, is that compatible with what the casino is?
So given that the lands are in the Innisfil Business Park zone, so obviously there's already a range of uses that would be permitted by that zone. But one of the things that my client will have to do, of course, is file a site plan application with the municipality when they have a user. If those uses that we just noted are actually going to be proposed, then a site plan application will be required. And some of those uses will also require an environmental compliance assessment, so an ECA through the MOE. So that will deal with anything such as dust, noise, odor, anything that would possibly be emitted from those uses would have to get an environmental compliance permit through MOE to ensure that there is no impact to any surrounding land uses.
Thank you.
Councillor Osati.
Thank you. You were talking about the visibility for the side that's facing the 400. But this development is just north of the cemetery and crematorium, correct? So I would think that there would also be a need for visibility buffer from the cemetery to any industrial, that there should be a consideration for that as well.
It's certainly something we could take into consideration when a site plan application is filed.
And then just refreshing my memory, I know that this is agricultural land, and I don't know that it's been farmed in a while, and with the construction not being able to get up that area, is that piece of land farmed currently?
It is.
It is.
Yeah. So my client is part of the DG group. So they own all the lands that surround to the north and going into Barrie. So they are all currently actively farmed.
Okay. We hate to lose farmland, but bringing business and jobs to the industrial area is certainly key. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councillor Nichols if he has anything to say at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Nothing at this time to add. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from those members of the public who have questions or comments regarding this item before council votes on receiving the report and all comments provided during this meeting. I don't see anyone at this time. Now we will go to the recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Waters, Councillor Asadi. Thank you. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. If you have not made oral or written submissions in the regarding of this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by council. Please contact the clerk's office at innisfil.ca. At this time, I'd like to thank everyone who has taken time to attend or watch this meeting and presentation. The final planning item on tonight's agenda concerns an application for proposed amendment to the Town of Innisfil's zoning. I think we covered that, did we not?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, it's the other application that is similar through the same applicant.
Okay, thank you. Concerns an application for proposed amendment to the Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw for 76515 Fifth Side Road. Council may have questions or provide comments, and then we have an opportunity for the public consultation. We will now hear from the town clerk on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies on July 28th, 2022. And the notice was also circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on July 28th in accordance with the regulations. Corresponding signage was posted on the property on July 28th, and information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page.
Has any correspondence been received by clerk services concerning the proposed amendments?
No correspondence has been received.
Thank you. We'll first hear from Chris Cannon, placemaker/planner, who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context of the proposed draft plan of subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This evening's public meeting is to discuss the zoning bylaw amendment application submitted on behalf of the owner, Water Sand Construction Limited, for the lands located at 76515 Side Road. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the subject lands to facilitate future employment uses. Next slide, please. The lands subject to this zoning bylaw amendment application are located at the northeast corner of 5 Side Road and 9th Line, immediately adjacent to Highway 400, and are known municipally as 76515 Side Road. The subject lands are within the Innisfil Heights Strategic Employment Settlement or Strategic Employment Area. Next slide. Planning staff. Next steps are planning staff have reviewed the proposed zoning bylaw amendment with respect to the planning policy document shown on the slide. There have been no concerns to date regarding the proposed rezoning of the subject lands. Next slide. The next steps are to review and consider all public, council, department, and agency comments and report back to council on a recommendation at a future council meeting. Notice will be provided to all who requested notification and/or submitted written correspondence. Next slide. As Mr. McKinnon stated, we're available for questions on this matter because he combined the two applications into one presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now hear from Keith. Do you have anything further to add to this?
No, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council at this time? I don't see any. And Councillor Nichols, do you have anything to add at this time?
Nothing more to add. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Sadi.
Thank you. Just to clerks, because with the presentation by KLM Planning Consultants covering both the previous item and this, my comments referred to this item. So if it was on the land in this item, thank you. If that could be noted.
Thank you, Councillor Sadi. We will now hear from those members of the public who have questions or comments regarding this item before council votes on receive the report and all comments provided during this meeting. I don't see anyone in the audience. Now we'll go to the recommendation on the screen. And could I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Fowler, Councillor Van Berkel. All in favor? Motion carried. Okay. If you have not made oral or written submissions in regards to this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by council. Please contact the clerk's office at innisfil.ca. Thank you to everyone who has taken time to attend or watch this meeting and presentation. And now we'll go to the last item on the agenda, an appointment bylaw. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Waters, Councillor Fowler. Any comments or questions from those in the chamber? Any comments or questions from Councillor Nicol, who is participating? Sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I know that our CAO, Mr. Gershow, is on the Zoom and wanted to make a comment just after council's had an opportunity, and I'd like to make a comment as well.
Okay, I didn't look at the screen fast enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just checking, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I'll thank Mr. Parkin for putting his hand up on my behalf. I'm in Ottawa tonight, participating virtually. I just wanted to comment briefly for council's benefit that the recommendation in front of council tonight regarding Ms. Toma's appointment comes out of some recent discussions. It is in front of council by virtue of the fact that the clerk position is a statutory officer that requires council's approval to be appointed. But I think what I really wanted to underscore was the recommendation here to elevate Patty into the clerk position is, from my perspective, a recognition of her just tremendous contributions and commitment and service to the town of Innisfil as deputy clerk over the last number of years, and particularly as we head into this election season towards the end of this term. You know, I think her appointment to the clerk position is really a win-win-win, a win for Patty, a win for Lee, and a win really for the town of Innisfil as a whole, because I think it is noteworthy as well that Mr. Parkin also supports this recommendation, and I'll ask him to speak to that in a moment. But I just wanted to provide that additional context to council, and would invite, with your indulgence, Mr. Chair, additional comment from Mr. Parkin.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Gershow. Yes, just would like to make a brief comment. Since Patty started in 2016, she's been such a huge inspiration to the clerk's team, to the organization, I think to council, and I've learned so much from her, working with her, and I think this is just a great recognition, as Oliver said, what she's been doing the past few years. And her dedication actually is such a reason why, especially over the pandemic, we've had such success with our electronic meetings, and even tonight, coming back to chambers with a hybrid, it's gone pretty well, I think. So Thank you, Patty, and congratulations and well-deserved, and look forward to continuing to be a great team. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like any comments from council. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've only had the pleasure of working with Patty for 4 years, but not only do I support this, I highly endorse it. Patty has always been responsive. She's been supportive. She's been incredible, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for her, so thank you. Well deserved.
Councillor Asadi.
Thank you. I wanted to say that I fully support this as well. I don't think that there'll be anybody on council. In fact, this is a seamless transition. Her support to council has been just outstanding because, without that dedication and hard work and everything, it makes our jobs easier. And anybody who will sit in these seats afterwards will soon recognize that. And to Mr. Parkin, thank you for the assistance that you've provided, because all our staff in the last couple years have taken on a burden of great workloads. And so you should all be thanked and commended, and congratulations, Patty.
And I think Councillor Payne.
He keeps forgetting my name. How can you forget Payne?
I'm not used to being in this chair.
Anyway, I just want to say congratulations, and it couldn't go to a better person. You are amazing. You're so helpful, and trust me, I know. I go to you so often, and you are amazing, and I can see it in the other employees. I think they follow your whatever it is, but everybody does a great job, and you're fabulous. You're a good leader. You're caring, and I just thank you so much for everything that you have done, not just for me, but for all of us. And it's been a good ride, and we continue on. So congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I'm going to pass on all the same congratulations. Not only have you been a great help, you always do it with a smile, and you always do it with enthusiasm. So that's what I appreciate. If you were dour, I don't know if I would have come to you that many often, but you're always, because you're so enthusiastic, I'm always willing to come back with issues that I have. So you've been great, and I think it's a position well deserved. And one thing that people probably don't know about her, and she'll probably get angry that I mention this, she used to race snowmobiles. She's a tough lady. When she told me that, I almost died. But no, she's tough, she's enthusiastic, and she knows what she's doing. Congratulations.
Councilmember Burkle.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to echo everybody's comments. There's just nobody like Patty. I mean, new council, whoever it's going to be, they don't know how lucky they are that they've got you, because we were very lucky to have you. And I appreciate everything that you've done for me and for everybody else. And you certainly deserve that job. Congratulations.
And I can say I probably wouldn't have got through tonight without her help. And I think I might have done it. I just saw this at the end of my paperwork. Do we go through this? Oh, Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to echo all the comments to thank you, Patty, for all you do for me and for the town. And it's been a real pleasure working with you, and look forward to doing that for a while yet. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Dittos on everything.
Don't forget Rob Nichols.
And Councillor Nichols, do you have anything to say? I don't see you here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't know that I can add anything to the rest of the council. Congratulations, Patty. Very well deserved, and hopefully looking forward to working with you for another 4 years. Congrats.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if I get through the rest of this. Okay. Okay. All those in favor of All those in favor and all those opposed? I don't see. Better not. The motion carries. Now we'll. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Oh, you got it there? Okay, I'm good to go.
See, she's good.
And last, we have adjournment. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Waters, Councillor Van Berkel. Thank you again for all those who participated in this special council meeting. Okay, now you start with the next process. Verify. Okay. Councillor, confirming bios, Councillor Waters and Councillor Van Berkel. And moved by Councillor Osati and Councillor Fowler that this meeting be adjourned at 9:28 p.m. Oh, and there's Councillor Nichols, yes. Okay. All in favor? Thanks.